Do you like comic books, video games, movies, and television? Are you way more interested in fictional superheroes than actual human beings or real life? Do you like listening to people discuss these topics for roughly an hour or two at a time?
Well, if you liked when this asshole did it alone, you're gonna love me.
This is the intro to our podcast, ain't it? What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Bat the Hat podcast, where we dive deep into all things nerd. My name is Pa Kent, and with me, as always, is Matt. Just Matt. What's up, Matt?
Hi.
I thought that was a good one for this episode, Pa
Yeah.
Kent.
Well, I'm still laughing because you said what's happening, or not what's up.
What's
so used to
happening?
your
The
opening.
classic 80s TV show? What's happening now?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I think that was the show with a rerun on it. I don't know. Anyways, Matt, this week we got a special guest with us today. Hello, Tony Carrasco, all the way from Mythical Mountain, the best fucking comic book shop in the world.
Yeah, it was a long trip, but I'm doing all right.
came down from atop the mountain.
I'm a little warm. I don't like this shit.
So those of you who listen to the show consistently know that I shout out Mythical Mountain a lot. It's where I have my pull list. It's where I get all of my books, and it's where I spend about 6 hours every Wednesday because I just hang out for too long.
On a short day.
Yeah, on a short day. I'm
If
always...
you get there late, then
See,
it's-
y'all are going to
yeah.
hear the other side now. He's presenting it like everybody probably likes him there. That's not the case.
Oh, that's not the case at all. Yeah, no.
We'll get into
There's
that.
at least 3 people.
Get into that.
But no, yeah. So we brought Tony on because we really wanted to, after we get through a lot of our main stuff, really wanted to talk about kind of the state of the comic book industry, some of the big things. I think that what we discussed, me and Matt discussed, is that this show, as much as we love doing it, sometimes we stray a little far from the fact that it is a comic book show. We really want you guys to be as interested in these characters as we are. And in today's society, it seems like less and less people are reading the books because they have the instant gratification of television and movies and whatnot, and they're missing such great storylines and such really good shit. I honestly, and Tony, you may disagree, but I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a comic book fan when it comes to the writing and the artwork.
Yeah, I really can't agree more. And the worst part, not the worst, but just something that seems to happen a lot, is I feel bad for people who don't read the book sometimes because they come in expecting their movies in a book, and I really want to give them those characters and everything.
Right.
But in my opinion, the books have made them even better, but it's hard to explain how Chris Pratt isn't Star-Lord in the comics.
Right, exactly.
But it's okay because it's him, but better.
Well, and
Like,
that's
it's a different-
exactly the
it's
thing, is that
really
people
tough.
care more about Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man than they do about Iron Man himself.
Yeah.
Being Tony Stark.
Yeah. And the comics, I mean,
Yeah, thanks, Matt. My bad. That
Well,
distinction
no, that's
is
a great
important.
point because
Yeah.
that reminds me of the Avengers game coming out from Square Enix.
Right, it looks
And-
like ass.
Yeah, I mean, sure, is the character design a little flawed? Sure,
Right.
but one of the main complaints was that looks nothing like. Some of people were
Exactly.
complaining they weren't
and
looking
Tony,
like.
I think you and me
the
talked about it
actors.
at the shop. The minute that we saw that trailer, we both said how we thought it was a great idea that they didn't do the movie characters, like they didn't do Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo and all. And I'm like, why the fuck would they? Like,
Yeah, I love it. I love the
We
concept
gotta separate
that,
them
that
at
they're
some
not
point.
the actors' look, but yeah, it could use some work.
where I think that shift is going to take place is, I think we're going to see that as the movies progress, and it's no longer just that core team of Iron Man, Captain America, Black. You know what I mean? It's once we start really changing out characters, then that may dissipate a little bit because people are now going to be familiar with the idea that, oh, it doesn't just have to be these fucking people.
yeah, and that's like, I can't praise them enough for doing their actual character designs because that takes a lot of guts.
Right.
Because you're literally losing potential. Like, I mean, it looks bad in of itself. I mean, that's a problem
Yeah.
all of its own, but adding in that you didn't use RDJ, Chris Evans, or like some of the most like attractive people in the world, and you just went with your ugly grandpa designs, it takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, you got to figure that this run of movies is, I mean, it's going to obviously help people buy that game. They're going to be like, oh, I love all these movies. I want to play this, blah, blah, blah. 10 years
Right.
ago, they might not have known anything about these characters, but watch a few MCU films
Yeah.
and you know all about them. So,
A version of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's great, and I'm really excited to have you on the show, Tony. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But the main topic before we get into so it's weird because there's really two main topics because that's a big part. That's what I'm most excited about. But we also wanted to, after we do the news, really get into Spider-Man: Far From Home, and just to be upfront with you guys, it's been 3 weeks since the movie's been out. 2 weeks.
It's been 2 full weeks. We're going on the third.
Regardless,
It's been long enough.
you've had enough time. We're doing our spoilers. We're not gonna outline the whole fucking movie, but there's some things we want to talk about. So we're gonna do Far From Home. We're gonna talk about some other Spidey related stuff that we're all excited about, and it's gonna be a good show. But getting into the news real quick, the first one that happened. This is a little bit old now that we moved to bi-weekly shows. Some of our news now feels a little outdated, but I want to talk about it, man. DC is shutting down Mad Magazine, and from what I understand, there's really conflicting reports because some people are saying that the sales of Mad have still actually been strong enough that it's weird that they're shutting it down. That it's the sales of it itself outsell, like just numbers wise, outsell many main titles of comic books, but yet they decided to shut it down. What do you guys think?
Did they give any sort of clarification as to why? Like a statement or anything?
I think they did, but that's where I meant, conflicting reports. They basically said, if I'm not mistaken, it just didn't justify keeping it open. It was an institution of a book, right? So it's like shutting down National Lampoon magazine. You know what I mean? It's just, it seems odd, but at the same time, is it selling? I haven't read that fucking magazine since I was a kid.
Also, magazine sales are totally different than comic sales. Like, magazines are supposed to be like in a Barnes and Noble and a Books a Million. They go past the comic shops and local stores, and I haven't seen one in my whole life, to be honest. And we don't order. Like, I've never heard of anyone who's like, I really read Mad Magazine. Like, I would like to. It sounds cool, but I've never even seen a copy in person, to be honest.
And it's super... I remember it being so funny because you had Spy versus Spy, you had all the really bizarre articles. My favorite thing about Mad in general was the fact that they would take... was it Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network that made a Mad TV show? And it was... and I don't mean Mad TV, obviously. I mean, it was a animated TV show. I think it was Cartoon Network. And they basically took the magazine and made... And it was fucking hilarious. They took real live events and then just said, how can we make this ridiculous? And it was so ridiculous but poignant and great. And I don't know, man. I thought the magazine was the same way, but I also can admit I haven't picked one up off a shelf, and
I've never picked one up.
Yeah.
But I'll have to give them credit. I mean, can we talk about how great Mad TV was back
Mad
in the
TV.
Day? Like Stewart and all the...
Now, the interesting thing about Mad TV is
characters.
it in itself didn't really fit with the brand of Mad, other than the fact that they would have Spy versus Spy.
Right.
But you had amazing talent. Keegan-Michael Key, Jordan Peele, Will Sasso, Phil Lamar, who is one of the greatest voice actors of all time.
And that was all original content, too. Like the skits and everything and the characters, that's what was crazy.
Alex Bornstein, who you guys may know is the voice of Lois Griffin on Family Guy, and she's in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Just really great talent. And some who never, really came out. But another one who's been getting really big... he was in Suicide Squad. Ike Barinholtz from Suicide.
He played the prison
and
guard.
he's been in like a lot of these comedies lately. Sometimes, but it just goes to show where they came from. A really great sketch comedy show from that died way too soon. But
going back to Mad, don't you feel like that's outdated now? Like having a magazine like that, we have so many
100%.
different ways to go about it. Like Mad TV and those kind of skit shows are coming back again, but like having a magazine is almost like, I was just thinking, I'm like,
well, and that's the thing is that skit shows, like those kinds of sketch comedy shows, they've never gone away and they're not coming back, except in the fact that the reason Key and Peele was so successful was genuinely originality. Like people even said that, oh, they stole the Chappelle Show thing because they would talk at the beginning of it and then they would do their sketch. I just disagree, man. I think that, I mean, yes, maybe he laid a platform, and I love the Chappelle Show. Don't get me wrong, but their sketch ideas were so. Every time I would watch them, I'd be thinking like, fuck, that just seems so original. I've never seen anything that really kind of just came close to this. And that was the feeling I think we got with Mad TV. Mad TV had such weird and wacky original characters and ideas and stuff you really want. And the great thing about Key and Peele was I don't think they ever had like a recurring character really. Every sketch was pretty much.
They had a couple. Like Megan has like 4 or 5.
Oh, you're right.
There's
Yeah,
like,
Megan did come back.
But they were smart not doing a lot.
They didn't overdo it though.
Yeah,
You're right.
and,
Like
like,
Stewart and Mrs. Kwan, those were hilarious. But at some point, you were just like, all right, enough.
I haven't hit that point yet. But
No.
with Key and Peele, like, I'll never. I mean, for until the day I die, I'll always laugh about the athletes' names when they. Go
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Like, I'm
That
A.
was
Ron.
classic.
Yeah.
That's, like, the
yeah.
best thing they
I
ever
thought
did.
that.
Hingle McCringleberry.
Yeah, Hingle McCringleberry. So
The third.
back when that came out, I changed my Xbox name to Hingle McCringleberry
Oh, that
because
was
I
so
thought that was
funny.
the funniest fucking thing I'd ever heard in my life.
But I agree with you. Chappelle may have laid a foundation.
Absolutely.
I definitely think they were 100% original.
Right.
With others as well. Like, did you ever see like The Whitest Kids You Know?
Oh,
Yes,
Will I
exactly.
say they were the first to ever do sketches like that? No. Do I think that theirs were 100% original? Absolutely. And
The
they were
difference-
amazing.
The difference with The Whitest Kids You Know is they were very funny, but that sense of humor was very
small niche.
very hit or miss. It was
Yeah.
very you had to be into that style.
It's
of
not
comedy.
even just offensive. It's just some of it is so
No, yeah,
obscure.
I don't
like-
think it had to do with
Yeah.
offensiveness because again, I think we can all kind of appreciate something that makes you cringe and laugh at the same time.
Oh,
But
definitely.
they just had this comedy that was very like
obscure.
very obscure. I remember when it was the teacher who would ask the kids like, and does anybody remember where George Washington sailed for a piece of candy? And then the cop came in and was like whispering in her ear, and she goes, "Kids, I'm so sorry, but one of your parents have died. Who wants to guess whose parents for a piece of candy?"
God.
And everybody was like, "I'll give you a hint. Their dad's an alcoholic." Timmy's parents. And it was so like bizarre.
And what's
Like,
worse is like Timmy looked like the child
Yeah.
of an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Like he looked like he was like in hand-me-downs and clothes too big
There-
and everything.
there's
like, it was
one-
so uncomfortable.
There was one bit they did that, again, I'll never forget. And it was like a stereotypical commercial for a prescription drug. And it's just, it's a guy running through a field and it's like feeling
Right.
down, this, and this. And he goes, ask your doctor about suicide. And then that's just how it ends.
So you know what
so
I mean?
morbid.
It's it is, maybe it is in like that offensive category. I don't get offended by that stuff. I think that it's okay to laugh like at stuff that makes you uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think that was what was great. Now Chappelle, the only thing I'll say about him is he walked away, man. They didn't cancel his show.
And he came back jacked.
Yeah, he walked
That was
away
crazy.
and he wanted to get away from the spotlight which I totally respect,
Yeah.
man. Do what, take care of yourself however you felt you needed to. And he came back and did 2 amazing stand-up specials back to back on Netflix, which were really funny. And it was crazy because he just had all of this material pent up from whatever he's been doing. But he walked away from the show. So I don't think you can blame like Key and Peele for being like, that was a great platform. We want to build on that.
What bothered me is he said like they took my show from me. How do you think I felt watching them do my show? I was like,
Oh,
they-
that's
they
right. I
didn't-
think
they
he did.
didn't-
He
Oh,
did come
Chappelle
out.
said?
Yeah,
he
he
said
did.
on one of his skits. He's like, "How do you think I felt watching Key and Peele do my show?" And I was like, "But man, they really like. I love Key and Peele and I love Chappelle. They are 2 totally different. Like
They're
their
different
comedy's in
vibes,
the same
man.
like." It's comedy, but yeah, like Key and Peele did stuff Chappelle would never have done.
That's like when Ryan from The Office says, I don't want to be with Kelly, but I don't want her to be with anybody else. Is
Yeah.
that love? And it's like
Yeah.
the same concept. It's like, dude, if
Is that
we
love?
respect you for walking away, but other talent, if they want to showcase their talent,
Right.
can't blame for that. But to circle back to the initial topic, I think Mad Magazine shutting down, maybe it's just time.
I'm not upset about it. Again, I think we need to stop operating purely off of nostalgia. I'm upset about it in the fact that, like, my heart is like, oh, man, that was a part of my childhood. Because I definitely read it a lot when I was a kid. It was like Highlights. It's like if they said that Highlights was shutting down, I'd get pretty upset. But, I think we got to stop operating so much of our shit based off of just purely nostalgia. Stop saying there was an inch, and I know that we're going on way too long talking about this, but there was a thing that came out that said a school in Alabama was reinstituting a entire class or an entire portion of its curriculum dedicated to teaching kids. It was elementary school, teaching kids how to read and write in cursive. And somebody posted that on our Facebook, or somebody not our face, not like the Bat in the Hat, but posted it. It was on my timeline, and they were like, "Good, it's about time that finally." And I'm like, "Why good?" Honestly, like, yes, I understand that we all grew up doing that, but in the future, in the very near future, we will get to a point where not only is cursive completely unnecessary, but we won't be handwriting anything at all. Eventually, we'll get to this point where it will all be digitized, and to tell me that it is a necessary trait or skill or something that you need to take time in a school to teach a kid, something that doesn't, even today, if you today did not know how to read or write cursive, it would not affect you at all.
You can still sign a check.
You can still sign a check. You can still sign whatever you need. It's just not necessary. And for us to pretend like that is something we need to get back to, teaching kids real values.
Back to our values in
Now,
Alabama.
And we've talked about it, so I'm not going to act like I have a hot take, but the fact that we don't have better life preparedness classes like home ec, I don't know why home ec is not a thing anymore. I think that absolutely should be. Kids should grow up knowing how to at least the basics of how to cook yourself a decent meal, how to fix something that has been ripped or torn or something. I very much got a lot from those classes when I was younger. And the fact that we don't have classes that teach you at least a little more, I don't think that a lot of kids grasp it when they're in middle school and whatnot, but a little more about what to expect for taxes and what to expect when you're dealing with medical insurance and like how to live your life outside of this, because when all your teachers are telling you what it's going to be like in college, they're fucking lying to you.
Yep.
Every teacher was always like, you're not going to be able to do this, and they're going to really come, and they're not. It's chill as fuck, dude. Our professors were weird as shit, and I had a professor cancel a class one time when I was at school because he had diarrhea. He was like, I'm sick, I have the shits. He sent that in an email, and I was like, cool. Nice to, like, I guess we don't need to go to class today. And, like, how fucking bizarre. But you want us to bring back cursive. I don't know, man. I think that, to me, they're two ends of the spectrum, but the same with this Mad Magazine thing. It'd be nice. It's nice to think about, but you got to stop operating purely off of nostalgia. Matt, you agree?
Yeah, I think it's just time for it to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everything eventually just runs its course.
Speaking of things that have run its course, that brings us to our next topic, which I originally wrote before it really... So they announced the end of The Walking Dead, and then he just ended The Walking Dead. Surprise, surprise. What was it, 183? 190? 193. So they ended The Walking Dead without telling anybody, and it was, I think, like right before the book came out. Or was it just they released the book? How did that work?
I found out about it. I saw a tweet Monday. Someone's like, I have this book for... I follow a lot of sellers, so it's like, I have this book for sale. Go get this book on Wednesday. Big news is coming out. And then Tuesday, it became official that, like, hey, this book is ending. But what I notice a lot is not a lot of people who come into our store follow comic news.
Right.
We have, like, maybe 25% of people I can guarantee know what the big books coming out every Wednesday are.
Right.
But most people find out Wednesday. And he just dropped it. He let out a big article Tuesday night and was like, I loved it. This is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace
and
out.
he said he had planned this from the very beginning. He said he never wanted to do a drawn out. He didn't want a cash grab, right? So he didn't want to, the final 5 issues counting down to, he just wanted it to end. He wanted it to be more about the story and more about, I want to end it on in a good place. And I respected that so much because they didn't make a big deal. 36 variant covers for the final issue of The Walking Dead, and you know what I mean?
So just to clarify for myself, and then anyone who may not follow the books every week, that was the final one. That's not saying like this is the final run.
No, this last issue that came out was a surprise final issue of The Walking Dead. It's done. Now, that being said, and I'll give it, I don't mean to cut you off, Tony. I'll get back to you in a second. That being said, The Walking Dead is not done. The comic is. It's no longer going to be in comic form. But as we know, there are 2 movies coming out for The Walking Dead, which is horseshit, and then we have another spin-off series that's about to start. So they're going to progress it the way that they do. And I think even, I can't remember, what's the creator's name? I can't remember. Kirkman, thank you. I think that he had been getting sick of what they're doing apart from his comic series, because they've taken it in such its own direction and franchised it so hard that it's great to have like a thing that blows up and people are a fan of it. But it's just like we're saying, when you get to the point where now more people are just, I'll watch it, rather than the people who made it big by reading it, that's a comic book, man. It was originally big because it was a really great comic.
Yeah. And
then when your comic sales are dipping because people would rather just fucking watch it for an hour every week, that's depressing. So I think not to say that book didn't have good sales. Like, I'm sure it, through most of its run it had decent sales, but the I think that to see your
life's work,
your labor of love be bastardized in that sense. And maybe, I don't think he liked it, man, because if I remember the last interview I was reading, he was kind of over it. He was like, all right, well, this isn't what I created. This is now what AMC creates. So,
Yeah, I think he's had a lot of grief with it, because I don't think you're ever going to be happy when someone takes your image and changes it. And I think ending the book on his terms, I have mixed feelings about it, because as a retailer, I don't like it because we could have ordered a bunch, sold a bunch of copies, it would have been good. But as a collector and as a fan, I read the issue. That might be the best ending issue to any book I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
That was such a I've never read a Walking Dead book, so I'm completely unbiased to any character thing. I didn't know everything, but the way he used every character, it seemed like, and had the progression to the end, I wanted to read the whole series from that book alone. It was really strong. So I'm glad he did it on his own terms.
Kind of wrapped everything up pretty nicely then.
Oh, perfectly. Yeah. And it was a great shout out to the whole series within the book itself, and made me want to read the whole series, which I've never had a book do that before.
I don't want to I don't want to talk like I didn't get into The Walking Dead. I didn't get into the show either.
Me either.
You know what I mean?
I've never seen it.
So I didn't get it. I just respected a lot that he decided that this was going to do. And it's funny because Kevin Smith was talking on his podcast about this same exact thing. And he had Kirkman on the set of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And because he had him in a scene, he packed it full of cameos of famous people. And he asked him, he said, so you ever going to end this book? And Kirkman said, this is literally 3 months ago. He said, you ever going to end the book? And he goes, not anytime soon. And he knew even then. He lied. He knew even then. Because, and it was funny because he said, if he had fucking told me, the whole world would have known by now.
And the other thing was, I read an interview where he's like, this was always Rick's story. So when Rick died in 192, I think it was we should have all seen it coming. Which, I mean, you don't want to because you love the series. And I think that with the show having Rick leave, it's literally well, now it's supposed to be over now. You guys are making this something that I had no intention of it becoming. Not that he probably doesn't respect them as writers or creators, but this is your baby, and someone's like, no, I'm going to dress it up this way.
That's what's so weird, because you're right. So it's like that old story of, nobody here can relate to this probably, but I love, one of my guilty pleasures has always been Grey's Anatomy. That show is fantastic. And at some point, when you're 10 seasons into this show, you look at it and you're like, this is not at all the same show that, you kind of fell in love with or that you started watching 10 seasons ago, because it went from, her story to now this completely, she's in it, but it's not her story anymore. And I think that's with The Walking Dead, kind of the big thing is that even as somebody, I watched 5 seasons of The Walking Dead, I was really into it at one point, but at some point when I heard Rick was leaving and they were going to do all that, and I was like, but he is the show. I understand actors' contracts. I understand you can't just kill a show because an actor wants to leave or whatnot, and you can't just kill a show because of these reasons, because it makes all this money. But that's what I mean. Now you bastardize it because of the almighty dollar, and what the fuck is the show going to be now?
Yeah, to add to exactly what you're saying, it gets to a point where it's literally just carrying the same title. It's not, because the same thing with me. I watched the first few seasons of The Walking Dead, and you can actually see the transition when it went from a great show, great story, to they're pumping them up now, or they're just pumping them up because they get a lot of viewers. I mean, and it's garbage. If you watch it now, it's it's a glorified soap opera with. Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. It's garbage.
Just like fucking Sesame Street, man. I mean, that show. That used to be Elmo's show, and now Big Bird's taken over. See, those kids living in the barrio, they They had a good time back in the
Hey,
day.
Robert California. Hey, what does CC think of the street?
Yeah, what is CC? The
what?
street? Sesame Street.
I didn't know anyone called it
who
that.
said
she
that?
She likes Elmo.
Who said that on the show, though? Is that
That's
the one
Robert
about the
California.
children? No,
Yeah.
who said, is that the one about the children living in the barrio?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that was
Dwight.
Dwight, yeah.
Is that the program about the children living in the barrio? I love that show.
Yeah.
Kevin's like, my favorite part about Elmo was the tickling.
Yeah.
Because that's society these days,
Yeah, it's the Elmo era,
So what is our chocolate chip cookie?
Yeah.
We're actually launching a new podcast about The Office. Details coming later.
You know what's fucked up is I swear to God I would do that. I could sit and talk about The Office for hours. If you guys want us to start a separate podcast about The Office, you just let us know on our Facebook page.
So to get back to it, to show-wise, my biggest complaint that you guys brought up is I don't think certain shows need more than one season. Like Stranger Things for me would have been a perfect one-season show. I love what they've done, but I don't like overwritten shows.
So I think,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So you? Oh, I'm sorry. I just meant that I disagree with you just on Stranger Things because I love the third season. I only have 2 episodes left. It's been fantastic. Every season has given you the good vibes without bastardizing what its main feeling or vibe or concept was about. And I think that the only thing I will say is there are some shows like Black Mirror is a great example where you can do a show. American Horror Story is a great example. You can do every season is a different story. You can wrap something up in one season and it'll forever be that thing. And not every season would be great, like American Horror Story, but I kind of do love the idea of this is its own thing, and it'll never be changed because you can wrap it up. Now, that's not applying to everything.
No,
if I can
not
get
at
13 more seasons of The Office, yes, I will have that happen.
And it all depends on the show too. It all depends on like what it's about. Like The Office, a sitcom needs a lot of seasons. It needs
Right.
I think most have at least 7, and I think that's pretty standard. But like there's certain shows where I'm like,
If it's good.
yeah, the second you start like having to do like manipulate little things to, I don't know, not every show needs a second
and then
season.
you have those shows that are really successful that then they still choose to end because the creators are like, I'm not going to worship the dollar. I want this to. How I Met Your Mother is a great example of that. That show still had consistently great ratings in a phenomenal show. I think it's fair to say,
And a terrible finale.
and debatable. I
Go
think
all
that,
that way, and then
I think that it's fair to
mixed
say
reviews.
that show changed a lot over the course of it.
Yeah.
But I think it always kept the same kind of heart and soul of the show. And they said, we're going to end this because we're on such a high note. Unlike The Big Bang Theory, which went so long.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, it's really like a gamble, and I agree with you too. Like you, a lot of them do want to go out on a high. They're like, look,
right,
we
Breaking
want to be
Bad.
remembered as like we love this show all the way to the end, instead of let's gamble. Let's see if we can do one more, and then movies can get ruined in the final 5 minutes. I've seen it happen many times.
Right.
So shows will do the same. I'm
Breaking
with you.
Bad, Sopranos. Sopranos was a good one that is a big divisive finale.
the finale? Yeah.
Because I thought it was great. Me and my dad actually got in a screaming match about it the other day because he didn't believe what the creator of the show said that yes, Tony's dead. He said in my mind that going to black.
I thought that was him getting killed.
That going to black meant that he was. It just ended.
If you ever watch Game of Thrones, let's bring that up.
And
because-
my dad.
Man, I'll debate it. I loved the Game of Thrones finale.
My
I thought
dad
it was
kept
great.
screaming. He was like, Tony's not dead. I don't fucking believe it. And I'm like, Dad, the creator said he is.
It's like,
So,
and
you know what
also,
I mean?
Dad, you're not Italian. Stop talking like
Yeah.
that.
Put your hand down. Stop waving it like that.
Feeble old Jewish man. Stop it. Like but no, so it's debate. But again, Breaking Bad is a good example because that went out on such a high, in my opinion. And if you didn't like the finale of Breaking Bad, then fuck you. You weren't a real fan of that show.
Breaking Bad almost lost me halfway through that season, and then it ended in the best way. I almost was like, no, and then it ended perfectly.
It was teetering in that last one, but
only because
the
like
end was good.
They fixed so many things, and
Yeah.
they're like, "JK, we're gonna unfix it." And I was like, oh, okay, but then again, the ending, phenomenal.
But see,
can't
and then
wait
you
for the
end on a
movie.
high note, and how excited is everybody for the movie?
it doesn't
I
need
can't
it doesn't
wait for-
need a movie.
It
though.
does
That's my whole
because
thing. Is like,
it
why
does
did
need
you
a
not
movie.
Just leave it alone.
No, okay, hold on. It may not need a movie, but this movie is not. It's not going to be Walt, so it's going to see what happens to Jesse. And all of us, I want to know what happened to Jesse. Like, I love him,
but like I love the finality.
Him, Dad, and
I love the finality of like he just drove away. You
right.
don't like. I
laughing
love,
and crying.
I love how perfect something ends. Open like that. You don't need this like, oh, he's still dealing drugs, or oh, he's a millionaire. Like
right.
You had this beautifully shot ending of him finally getting away from the man who has ruined his life, and then you're not tainted, but you're gonna add on to this beautiful moment. And I don't want it.
See, I love it because it really depends on the story, because sometimes it works when it's like they're like, let's leave it open, and then later, and they'll say it's up to your interpretation what you think would have happened, and that works a lot. But then there's some where you're like, I want to know what happened.
You know, it's easy for us to sit around.
So I see what you're saying.
It's easy for us to sit around and be a bunch of assholes with opinions, you know. But you're absolutely right. It really. Gosh, this is so circumstantial now that we keep talking about it. Yeah. It just depends on the story itself. I think there are general rules of thumbs that we can take away from that, which is, yes, go out on a high note instead of just running it till it stops making money. But you're right. It really, there's no rule of how many seasons or where it needs to end, because there's been so many great shows.
If they said they were going to do 5 more seasons of The Office tomorrow,
a lot of people
everybody would say yes.
I disagree.
If they get the original cast.
That's what I'm saying.
If you don't
like,
bring Michael back at this point, you're wasting your money.
No, Michael wouldn't come back if they did it.
But they have to for it to be successful, in my opinion.
He's dead now.
Even Steve Carell.
Oh, jeez.
Even Steve Carell said we couldn't do The Office because the jokes we put on there wouldn't make it today. Like I forget. Like I was shocked watching. You know when Phyllis becomes Santa?
Yeah.
He goes good old tranny claws. Yeah. I was like, I can't believe they had in season 8 they had Nate in blackface. I'm like, this was on national television.
Have you noticed gum has been getting mintier lately?
all right, but guys, we gotta get back on track.
Let me close this back real quick. The one thing I wanted to say, and I'll end on that, is what you mentioned about Stranger Things, which is so interesting. I love the show. I love that there's more than one season, but if there would have been only one season, I'd have been cool with that. Yeah. Like, you see what I mean? I like when sometimes I like one season things, but if they do it well,
sure. But to be fair, I think Stranger Things, because of even the title, I thought it was going to be what I just said. I thought it was going to be different. More of every season was a different Stranger Thing.
I just want Will to catch a break, dude. Like,
yeah, he's the Jesse of Stranger Things.
Like, when he's finally not possessed, he turns into McAvoy Xavier doing this the whole season, except it's on the back of his neck.
All the guys just trying to talk to girls, and he's like, I just want to play D&D, guys.
More on that later.
I was about to say, we'll talk about that off.
Yeah, more on that later.
Recording.
Is it D&D or is it?
Yeah. Oh. I just want to play with some D. You know what I'm saying?
D&D.
That's interesting to hear you guys say it, like, as insinuating that, because everyone else I talked to was like, no, they didn't actually mean that. They were like, no.
I think they did. Really... Okay, and to be fair, like, you know me, like, I look for LGBT representation anywhere I go. Like, I thrive on it.
I thought it would be great to throw. Right. I like how they introduce it, but Stranger Things. Sorry to rant again. Stranger Things does a great job of like representing the time without changing it. They show women oppression, but it's not like she won.
And again, I know a lot of people will hear this episode and they'll be like, "Oh, you know, snowflakes." But no, I love it. And when he said, "Well, I'm sorry that you don't like girls," and the look on Will's face, my gay little heart just burst. I was like, "Oh, he's gay." I was like, "Yes."
And that's how I took it. But everyone else I've talked to before you two was like, "No, I was that guy in high school. That just means he didn't know how to talk to him." I'm like, "No,
I think that was pretty obvious." Yeah, I don't know. To me, it was pretty obvious.
I did read one interesting thing. They said it could be this. It's either, you know, the sexuality thing, he just wants to play D&D thing, or you got to remember he's been basically ripped out of his childhood for 2 seasons.
Yes, I thought that
so
too.
He hasn't caught up, and I was like, "That's genius!"
Well,
wow, that's
that
great.
Makes the most sense.
Well, I think so. When at first before that line made me think, okay, Will's gay, but at first I thought it was just the fact that he did get taken away for that whole season. He was still in season 2 quite a bit, but
it wasn't really him the whole time.
I think the fact that he just is like, I missed out on getting to do so much of this stuff with you guys. I wanted to, but I don't know. But anyways, moving on. Zack Snyder released some concept art of Darkseid, like some really good concept art of Darkseid from Justice League, and it made me wonder: is Zack Snyder as awful as I thought he was? Because I don't know why Darkseid was shirtless in every.
That was odd to me that he looked at like a I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, he just wore like a Speedo cloth.
He
all
also
the time.
had that
No
weird
armor.
like old man torso that like he was jacked, but for like an old man where everything's still kind of sagging.
Yeah.
I think that kind of makes sense since he's like been old. Like it helps you
Yeah,
think.
no,
of
I
him
get
as
it.
older,
I get
but
it 100%. But
Zack
he was
Snyder's
not
old
like
news.
ripped or anything. He was he looked like he was solid. He just didn't
Yeah.
look like ripped.
He did look intimidating, though.
Yeah, no,
Like,
he
I
looked
was like,
really.
wow.
He looked great.
Yeah.
Look cool.
And Darkseid without his armor was like Thanos without his armor in
Yeah.
the first movie.
Yep.
It's not
But
wrong.
but that was the thing that I
uncomfortable.
was thinking. I literally thought the same thing because they brought Thanos in and then they took away his armor for most of it,
Immediately.
and then I was like, guys, you don't have to do exactly what Marvel did. You know what I mean? Take some fucking cues.
Let him show up fully decked out.
Yeah,
and just be
let
like, hey,
him
I'm
be
ready to kill
Darkseid,
everybody.
man.
Yeah.
It was like in Tom King's Mr. Miracle run. There were those images of Darkseid, and he had like the helmet or whatever you would call it around his head, but he
Yeah.
was shirtless, and it was so bizarre that he even had that around his head, but he still was shirtless.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't understand that at all. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. You guys know what a fan of Brian Michael Bendis I am now. Tony,
B&B.
that's mostly because of you. You said when I first started really getting into comics themselves, you said it's Brian Michael Bendis. If you're gonna love it, and
Yep.
he has made me. I put a big like suck your dick kind of tweet out for Brian Michael Bendis the other day, just because again, Batman Universe came out, the new Young Justice came out. He's doing like 7 books for DC right now, and it's kind of blowing my head apart. But you guys got to remember, Brian Michael Bendis created Miles Morales. He wrote some of the best Spider-Man storylines while he was still with Marvel. He brought me back to Spider-Man because of the Miles Morales stuff. Like, I had forgotten why I love Marvel so much. And he made me a Superman fan with his writing of Superman. He made me, he just put out Batman Universe, which is what he's, explain that a little bit. So it was originally the Walmart exclusive books, right?
Yeah, they did the thick books with like a lot of reprints, and
Right.
his story was also included in it, but it wasn't a full size story. So like in the ones we're getting in comic shops now, it's like 2 Walmart issues for 1 local comic shop issue. So this has been out for several months, but it's just
Right,
now
this
getting
isn't a new
released
story.
to comic shops exclusively instead of Walmart. Well,
But-
not exclusively.
But with
instead of
somebody who's
Walmart.
now synonymous at writing Superman, and again, he's writing the Event Leviathan stuff. He's writing not only Superman, but Action Comics as well. So
Yep.
he's writing 2 different Superman books in the same continuity, which is blowing my mind again.
And it's working well because that's the one thing I get a lot of complaints about is people don't like that right now Detective Comics doesn't have anything to do with Batman. And what's funny that you mentioned is King, who's writing
Detective
Batman.
Comics?
Yeah, people, because that's his other Batman book. They want that to connect together, like Action and Superman.
Oh, you mean that it doesn't have,
Yeah,
it's not in the
it's
same
not-
continuity.
it's not
I'm like,
continuity.
yeah, it does have to do with Batman.
But
Like,
speaking of King, he's actually writing the Superman Walmart book too.
yes,
So I like
Superman
that
up
the 2
in the
people
sky. So
also
that's what I was
switch
going to say.
over,
Him
yeah.
and Tom King, who are known for writing Bendis, who writes Superman, and Tom King, who writes Batman, they swapped. And
Yep.
King is writing Superman for these Up in the Sky books, and Bendis is writing Batman for Batman Universe, and they're both phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
But the reason I bring up Bendis is the fact that he also writes the Young Justice book, which is a much more lighthearted, much more fun, but very good Young Justice book. And it originally had Patrick Gleason doing all the artwork, but now they have, I guess it's fair to say, a Gleason interpreter, or like some, what's it called?
It's like
Somebody
like
who
an like an interpretation Gleason
Yeah,
artist.
he,
And I mean,
he tries to copy what Gleason did. So
Gleason left for Marvel, right?
Gleason did leave for
Yeah,
Marvel.
he's
Yeah.
exclusive over
So Gleason left for Marvel, and I think Spider-Man is what he left for.
He's doing like a Spider-Man project.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the JJ project, but now he still hasn't announced what it is yet. So I guess we'll see. Hopefully
But-
later this year we'll get a sign of that.
Anyways, and so in Young Justice, I think that one thing with how do I even bring this in? So Damian Wayne is the Robin, right, of this current generation.
He's the Robin. There are
Tim-
Robins. He is the.
Tim Drake is the Robin of Young Justice, and he's also taken the mantle of Red Robin. However, they seem to keep retconning that and taking that away. So in Young Justice, he's now getting a new identity and a new suit. He's no longer going to be, which I'm really excited about. It looks very Nightwing-ish, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I just want him to not go by Robin anymore.
Yeah, it's overdue because even when he was back in Detective Comics for a while, when they did the arc of like his future self and connecting it to Superman's dad and everything,
when he died and whatnot.
Yeah, when he quote unquote died. They did this really confusing, like because they were calling him Robin, but then they call him Red Rob. Like it's overdue. He needs a new name.
Not only that, but you know what was weird is I went back and read, and we talked about. I went back and read Kingdom Come, Mark Waid and Alex Ross. One of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
Kingdom Come. And Red Robin's in that fucking book, but it's Dick Grayson, which was so bizarre, but he was dressed as Red Robin.
I think that was a mistake.
And I kept thinking as I was reading, I was like, I wonder if they just didn't know which Robin was this Robin, or if Alex Ross wrote it in like this and did, or you know what I mean, drew it in like this. And they were just like, oh, it's still good.
Mark Waid does some weird stuff, though. He likes to kind of take things on their head. And there have been other, like, Elseworlds comics that change the characters.
I just thought it was bizarre. But
It's
also
not a
what
good
was
idea.
what was cool about it is in this last Young Justice issue, and he hasn't gotten his new costume yet. I think that's the next one. But in the one that just came out on Wednesday, they're kind of dimension hopping through the multiverse right now. And they landed in Kingdom Come. And Superman comes down with the black behind the S and with the, Reed Richards hair, and he's a complete dick. And I don't remember if it was Amethyst or somebody, but they were trying to figure out where they were, and she closed her eyes, and she's like reading the idea, and all they got flashes of Superman standing over Shazam's body, and I'm freaking out like, that's Kingdom Come, it was amazing. And
okay, so they did show Kingdom Come too, because that's one of my favorite moments.
They showed what
fighting.
they gave you a big glimpse of, this is the world we're in. Like, it was definitely Kingdom Come, and like Green Lantern was in his like mech Green Lantern suit and all this crazy stuff. And again, Diana still looked like young Wonder Woman, because apparently she doesn't age. She ages slower than Superman, apparently. So
they do her weird every time they age her. Like, I loved Last Night on Earth, the Batman book that Snyder and Capullo are doing that everyone needs to read, but that mohawk was ridiculous.
So I got one that I wrote down for the next piece of news, but I'm going to save that for a minute because I want to talk about something Matt really wants to talk about. Mortal Kombat is getting a reboot, and it's going to be a hard R rating with fatalities. And Matt, how do you feel?
Dude, when they said it's going to have fatalities, I'm hoping it is just so obnoxious. Like, every time people square off in the movie, it's just like somebody's going to die, and it's going to be so over the top, and it's going to be amazing.
What's amazing is that, like, I don't get excited for the Mortal Kombat games because I don't know the story. I have friends who really are. I think
I'm deep in the lore.
Yeah,
of
you're
Mortal
deep into
Kombat.
the lore of it, and I was never that kid. But every time a new Mortal Kombat games, I spend hours on YouTube trying to find, like, when they release, these are the fatalities, and these are all of all the shit that they talk right before, and I love that stuff. And the fatalities get more and more creative every single game.
Yeah, and they just get so, I mean, they've always been violent, but like the ones in the current game, I mean, God.
So I think a lot of us have a bad taste of those movies from the 90s, 80s. When did those movies come out?
The Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 90s.
Like, and the first one is almost like a cult classic. I
have really good memories of both of them. Like, it's easy to look back and be like, that goofy, stupid, can't take it serious movie. And we haven't really had anything since then other than the game. So how do you think they can come into this and make us take it seriously?
Well, so one thing that I'll say is who they cast to play one of the main characters, Sub-Zero. If you've ever seen, have you ever seen The Raid? It's a movie called The Raid.
Yeah, of course.
Or The Raid Redemption. And it's, I think of it this way. You know how Broken Lizard, they make movies. It's a comedy group.
Yeah, thank you. Super Troopers and Beer Fest and whatnot. Yeah,
of course. Now think of these guys
Mother
as
of
similar
God.
to a Broken Lizard, but they are a choreography stunt action group.
Right, yeah, of course.
So they've done The Raid. They were actually in The Force Awakens.
They did Mark Wahlberg's, one of his last movies, the one...
16 Hours, or no, I'm sorry, that's the one with John Krasinski. I just watched it, where it's with
You know
Wahlberg.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
One of the guys from The Raid is in that movie, so yeah.
Yes, and he's like the lead
Yes.
in most cases. I hope they cast him to play Liu Kang. That's my want. But the guy that they cast to play Sub-Zero is like one of the big ones as well.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is they're going to really put a lot of emphasis on the fighting. I mean, at the core, what is Mortal Kombat? It's a fighting game. I think they're gonna go
Fair.
really above and beyond and like just step up the choreography and the stunts and like make it practical.
Do you think we're going to get a tournament style movie again, or do you think it's going to be more of a storyline?
I'm getting. So they did a fan series, like a Mortal Kombat YouTube series that got a lot of people behind it, and then they made 2 seasons worth of it, and I thought it was great. I think they are going to go to like a storyline, like where they'll of course have Outworld and Earthrealm and all that.
What characters would you be most excited to see live action? Because I doubt we're going to get the whole kit and caboodle.
No, I mean they have to do the stereotypical, at least the 2 main ninjas with Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
And Sub-Zero. Right.
To be honest, they've done Shang Tsung, so if they wanted to go with a different villain of some sort, maybe of course there's Shao Kahn or Quan Chi.
Right.
But so of course Sub-Zero, if you add any more different color ninjas, I'm down. Honestly, they're some of the best characters in that
What's
game.
the one that looks like like some of the interpretations, at least the older ones, he was dressed like them, but he was like a lizard?
Reptile.
That was his name? Yeah. I was a Jax person. I like Jax.
So Jax is a good character. I'm sure they'll have Sonya Blade. There are so many great female characters in Mortal Kombat. So they could, easily, and in the newer iterations, they have like the daughters of the OG characters. So there's like Cassie Cage, Jax's daughter, Jackie Briggs. So I don't know. I think at the core they'll do like some of the main known characters.
Just for this like modern era of feminism or whatever we're in. That's a good movie if you wanted to do like a strong female badass.
There's tons of them.
That's a fucking movie to do. You know what I mean?
So, but I think they're going to have a strong emphasis on like the actual fighting.
Right.
The fact that they're greenlit to have an R rating, I think, is perfect. It's a violent game, so it needs to be a violent movie.
I just can't imagine it without an R rating. That'd be kind of pointless.
No, it just wouldn't work. So I'm excited. I want to see a fresh take on it. I think it will be a storyline. I think they'll have some sort of Earthrealm, Outworld, typical merger type deal, but I think it'll be good. I'm excited to see who else gets cast.
In similar fashion to that, they are rebooting again the Power Rangers, and they're going to recast it, which is strange because with the success of the last 2 seasons of Stranger Things, the guy who played the Red Ranger, who is in those seasons,
plays Billy.
He plays Billy in Stranger Things, and he was the Red Ranger. He was great in that movie, and I don't know about you guys. They called it a flop.
They're rebooting it.
Really? Yeah. I liked that movie. I thought it was actually
I was
good.
Excited because they were setting up the Green Ranger. So I knew like, they're going to redeem all the flaws in this one. They will redeem. I know it. They're going to figure it out.
But I didn't see that many flaws. I felt it was rushed a little bit. There was some pacing issues, but like just that opening scene where he smacks the bully and the guy's like, "Did you just slap me?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did."
Oh,
weird, right?
And that's Roy that plays his dad, by the way.
Yeah.
Roy from
Roy was, and they put a. And I know this is a weird thing, but maybe I'm just a fanboy. But they had a 21 Pilot song as their opening number for, and I was like, "What a bizarre!" But that was a great choice though because it fit the scene, and that's not a band that typically gets like, "Hey, we're gonna use you as a big, scenes,
And I thought their cast was really well too. Like I'd heard about how diverse their cast was. They had cast people who were like never get a normal job in mainstream. They had cast like appropriate, you know, like people for each role.
Demographically appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I thought they were all good.
And no one who's talked to me about it, no one who saw it was like they need to reboot. Like it seems like a really strange choice to try to reboot it again so soon.
Right.
Too.
The flaws that they did have, which to me again were like pacing flaws, and just that I think they tried to, because I think in their heads they were like, well, we have to have character development. And there's 6 kids here or 5 kids, so they tried to force in some character development with like the where they were all camping and then unloading their lives to each other around the fire. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't even a bad scene, but it was very much like, all right, we need to force in some character development.
Yeah,
but
my issues with it were exactly that. It took the whole movie for them to become Rangers. And when they finally became Rangers, they had like one standoff, and that was the only part of the movie I didn't enjoy was the third act.
It was a pretty great epic
I didn't really like it.
You didn't like it at
all?
all?
No, when they made Goldar that stupid.
I thought that was a good way to make Goldar. You really didn't like it?
No, but the fact that they said Rita was the Green Ranger, like when they explained the origins, and they're like Zordon was the Red Ranger, Rita was the Green Ranger. I was like, oh my god, this is they came up with a great story.
And
for
somebody
Power
said
Rangers.
they didn't like. fuck, what's his name as Zordon?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
I thought he was great.
I thought he was great.
He was kind of a jerk.
Yeah, he was.
And then
a
he
jerk,
found his way.
and then it redeemed himself at the end. So
Yeah.
look, for the flaws, and I'll say the few flaws I believe that movie had, they absolutely could have cleaned it up in a second movie instead of having to reboot it. And the reboot puts a bad taste in my mouth because, again, that
They
just
gave
leaves
up
us with
on it so
another fucking iteration instead of you sticking with something that could work.
Yeah, so two things real fast. I'm super disappointed that they're not continuing. I thought it was great.
Right.
Warranted a sequel. However, did you see the hard R rated short film
Yes.
that Avi Arad did a few years ago?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
That wasn't Avi Arad.
Yes, it was.
That was Avi Arad?
Yes, it was.
Wait, you're telling me he can't do fucking anything right with Spider-Man, yet he helped make that short film?
That was him.
I'm blown away.
So listen to this.
No idea.
I think that changed everything. I know it was just a short film,
But that came out before the movie.
I'm just saying, well, he showed
Movie
what
production
something
is years, so
he showed what it could look like when you take a property like that and put it, and not
Right.
just overly violent, but it's just gritty. When
I will
something-
say that
it
if
was
we can,
amazing.
Look, if we can get a movie and Dawson gets his creek back, I'm okay with
Oh,
it because
God.
James Vanderbeek being in that short film was fantastic.
What's most important is, do you know how to pronounce that guy's first name that plays Billy and the Red Ranger? It's like
I don't know his
Dacre or Dacre. His name's like, it's Dacre.
someone's
Last name's
I
Montgomery.
thought it was just Dacker.
Yeah, I
I've
didn't
heard
know.
I've heard
Is
it
it
pronounced
Dacker?
Dacker.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was.
Maybe it's Jack and Daxter.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I sent you the photo too that he's now a fan pick to play Jason Todd.
Oh, I thought you meant a
Yeah.
different
And I
So-
love it.
photo. Never mind.
I don't think this is really it, but Power Rangers also just did their whole Shattered Grid series
Right.
in comics. That was like our sales like almost tripled on that book. It was how
Really?
people who never talked to me about Power Rangers were like
Yeah.
Shattered Grid is the shit. Like I'm reading every issue.
You completely
So,
just
who-
reminded me that there was a Power Ranger comic still. I
Exactly.
had no
Yeah.
idea.
So I don't know. Like I like believing comics influence movie choices, but that series, like every Power Ranger, every non-Power Ranger fan was like on Shattered Grid for a solid
Right.
3 months, and then they ended it, and everyone's like, "Oh, I don't care anymore."
You know what's funny is there's actually crazy good lore in that franchise.
Oh yeah,
Other
yeah,
than
there sure
a
is.
lot of people just think about the television show. Obviously,
apparently,
but-
and I may be
Power
wrong
Rangers
in
is awesome.
this.
Yeah.
I may be wrong in this, but apparently the original Japanese show that they did, which started in the 80s and like was way
that's all the
before-
American one was, is that, and then they
Well,
just dubbed it.
apparently it was a lot more brutal in Japan, and there was a lot more death and a lot more like really because they weren't as they were a lot more desensitized to certain things, I guess, back then. And they had, if I'm not mistaken, just like people died. There were children who were murdered, and like there was a lot of like this kind of. And then when it came to America, it was very like, we're gonna put this on Kids WB or Fox Kids. It was Fox Kids when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very, very changed to be that goofy kind of Beetleborgs.
I mean, if you see the things that
Beetleborgs.
You remember
if you see
Beetleborgs?
the things that Japan puts out consistently,
Yeah.
it's like the least surprising thing I've
Well,
ever
you
heard.
and me are pretty big weebs, so like we.
Well, I mean, I read like I talk to people at work who like I read manga, I watch anime because like the great thing about that stuff is it's stories you'll never hear in the comics. Like there's a one coming out where I lose it every time I see it. A guy has a gun for a head. And I'm like, I want to know why anyone thought, like, why someone published this story. But I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal.
I think
and
stuff.
It's
I think
weird.
stuff like One Punch Man is a really great example
Oh my God.
of what American writing is not, and it's
Yeah.
just what is the most fucking ridiculous thing we can think of, and and it's still amazing.
And
like it's
add
still
in
so.
character development, add in a
Right.
story, a purpose to like.
When
No,
I watched
it's-
that first
yeah.
episode of One Punch Man and he's coming across the lobster guy, right? I'm losing my mind. And then they make this show with such great storylines and such great written dialogue and such great everything, and I'm like, man.
and with a main character that just doesn't give a crap about anything.
And he's
it's
not-
hilarious.
And he's so
He's not even
lethargic.
visually appealing.
No.
Like his big yellow suit, you're like, get away from me. Like,
You know what? And you're absolutely right. They were like, what are the worst colors we can give him? What's the
Yellow and
antithesis of like a cool superhero? And they made this skinny, bald guy with a yellow and red McDonald's suit.
Yep.
And you are watching it and you're like, and somehow you revere him, and you're and he's still, Saitama is this complete badass, and it's
but he's a complete idiot.
and we can't do that.
It's crazy how they-
No American story could get away with that.
no.
It's crazy what kind of level they put him on too, like because he was already like brought
Right.
into he could take out Goku, no matter what level he is. No matter what's saying, they're like, he could easily take him. Now, see, and it sparks a good debate, is what I'm saying.
It's a really good debate,
he could take him.
But again, it's just like those scenes where, like, the end of the first season when he's destroying everything, like the harder parts inside, and all those, like, I don't remember what they call them. I'm gonna call them Omega level heroes. They're all down there being like, they're trying just to beat the wolves at the gate, and he's already in the ship beating the
he's like breaking through the ship.
Yeah,
like,
he's just destroying everything, beating the main boss, and they think they're doing anything. And I don't know.
The Goku argument, I heard the writers, both of them are like, the universe. If Goku is in One Punch Man, he would die.
Right.
If One Punch Man was in Dragon Ball Super, it'd be well, actually, Toriyama was like, it'd be an even fight. He'd like, I don't want him to beat One Punch Man. I want them to get to a standstill.
So the moral of this story is I love all the Japanese stuff, but when the tentacles start coming out, I turn it off because I just know where it's going.
You know what's weird is that, and gosh, we really got to get back on track.
Yeah,
but
let's go.
What's weird is that so many people genuinely, I think, have that ideal about anime and manga and stuff. Is that it's gonna, like, at any moment you can be reading it and a girl's just gonna get tentacle fucked out of nowhere.
Well, I will say this too. I've always kind of been that guy, not really into it, and then I'm like, I'm gonna give it a try, and then my roommate will be watching like Sekiro, which is nothing but huge exposed titties.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining.
Man, Tony, we're gonna save that for another episode because I know what you're gonna get into. But me and him have had a huge talk about anime and its unnecessary use of over-sexual,
some of it
over-sexuality. You know what I mean?
But no, one thing is, it's always the first episode. There was one show that's my favorite show now,
Food Wars,
that I wouldn't have
Triple D.
I wouldn't have watched it past the first episode, but I did just because, and I don't regret it.
Yeah,
and it's just one of those things. But yeah, let's.
Anyways, moving on. The so a really cool piece of news that I thought was that the director for It and It Chapter 2, Andy Muschietti, is signed on now to direct The Flash for Warner Brothers. But so as of right now, Ezra Miller is actually still signed on to be the Flash, which I'm not upset about Ezra Miller at all. Again, I'm interested in seeing development out of that character. I'm interested. I think they made him Wally West, but I think I'm interested in seeing him progress.
I want Dr. Montgomery, damn it.
Yeah, sure.
I want him to be.
But you know what I mean, like. But what do you guys think about somebody who's synonymous right now with a horror movie or two horror movies coming on and directing The Flash?
I'm gonna add to that exact topic after this, and you're gonna love it. It's something I just found out about. But to answer your question, I think it's awesome because you'll realize, and you brought this up before. What did the Russo brothers do before Infinity War?
They worked on Community.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like,
and then they came and made Infinity War and Endgame.
Just because somebody's talent has been only in one genre, that does not mean.
So I never Jordan once Peele. Did I read this and think, why they shouldn't have gotten him as a director.
Oh no!
Like
no.
I just want to know.
I just think it's going to be good.
What do you guys think as far as, do you think that means they're going to move it into a dark and more serious? Do you think we are getting a Flashpoint movie, which I think has to be a certain level of dark or serious? But do you think he's going to show out and do a completely different style than we're used to seeing from Andy Muschietti?
I don't think it's going to be like, since he's on, it's automatically going that route.
Right.
I think it very well could, and I agree with you. If Reverse Flash is even associated, it needs to be, because he is terrible. And the premise of Flashpoint, it's not a good story. Like, I mean, it's a great story, but what happens to Barry, it's terrible.
Right, it's awful. Yeah,
it's awful. So, do I think it automatically means it'll go that route? No. Do I hope it does? Sure, I think it could work, but no, I mean, I just think he might bring something different to the table, just a different representation.
For sure.
Jordan Peele did it, prove that no one is one-dimensional Hollywood.
Absolutely.
I do think Flashpoint is overdue. We were supposed to get it and bring in Thomas Wayne and all that stuff a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't like Ezra Miller's Flash, but he also got one of the worst movies to prove himself in. Yeah. Like, I have to remember, like, I've only seen Justice League once because I was so appalled by everything that happened in that movie.
I don't feel like we can blame Ezra Miller for
it's not his fault at all. I don't know why they don't use I don't know his name from the TV show, but everybody says he's a good Flash. Yeah. I feel like
Grant Gustin.
Grant Gustin, yeah.
I don't know why you don't use what you already have developed extremely well.
And I think because he has developed in a different universe, and bringing him as an actor, this is where I will kind of agree. Bringing him into another universe as the same character
to start over
and the same actor, it'll blur too many lines of what's what. You know what I mean? Like that's not what I wouldn't want. I do love him as the Flash. I don't like how they write him all the time, but I think he is good in what he does.
Yeah.
Can we get the right Flash? If this is Barry Allen, can we write him as the Batman with a positive attitude, not as Wally West, who is kind of
my favorite
not
thing,
the smart one?
My favorite thing in the comics that they do a lot, especially recently, is like Batman has, I think, like 4 times in the last 6 months has given little snippets of how much he respects Barry Allen, because he says that guy is as good of a detective as I am. He may annoy the shit out of me, but we can sit there and talk for hours about CSI work and whatnot. And Superman made a comment about, why don't you guys just go over there and talk about Crime Lab stuff? And he goes, you know what? Maybe we will.
And one of my favorite parts was Heroes in Crisis, when they got to team up. They were doing the detective work, and like my favorite part was when they're like, "We have conclusive evidence," and they're both like said the opposite names. And that was one of my favorite moments in the whole book, is because they are on the same level.
Right.
Yeah. So it was just really great.
And not only that, but just recently, right before the City of Bane stuff happened, you got the that little 4-issue crossover where the Flash and Batman were working.
Right?
The Price, right?
Yeah.
They were working together. And they were so mad at each other, but they were so in sync of, you know what I mean? Like the Flash couldn't trust Batman anymore, he felt.
Yeah,
and
but they respect each other.
They respected each other so much about what each other's opinion were that they
I love that they didn't fight. Like, I hate when like they make heroes fight that wouldn't fight each other. Like, you would never see a Flash Batman battle. Like, it just wouldn't exist.
I disagree. I don't think you'd see a serious one, like one where they're trying to hurt each other. But I think if you put them in the right circumstance, anybody would go to blows with each other. What I'm tired of is shit coming out with a versus title. Stop with your versus title. Stop giving me Batman versus this. Stop giving me Superman versus the Flash. It's
Deadpool
not
versus
that.
Everybody.
I'm just saying, it's not that. We know it's not going to be that. Stop naming it that. That's lazy.
All I want is an on-screen Flash and a Green Lantern bromance. That's just I just want that.
I
can't agree more.
Yeah.
I just want that. They're like
friends.
the best.
What I don't
friends.
understand is how their roles keep being reversed. Where 1 minute the Flash is the goofy one, and the next minute Green Lantern's the goofy one.
But that's like, to me, it's friendship. Like you are constantly like around the person who isn't you, and you pick up that stuff, and that's why they're so great. Is they're this reflection of the other one in different moments, and they balance each other out.
I just mean in the difference between like different animated films. I feel like 1 minute the Flash is the one who's being like the goofy guy, and then the next all of a sudden it's Green Lantern. It's like, Flash, my man, give me some.
That's only when they bring in Nathan Fillion.
Yeah,
it's all about the voice actor, because if Nathan Fillion's there, it's like, oh,
he's the funny guy.
Yeah.
What I was saying when I was gonna build on your horror director thing, John Carpenter, legendary director.
I have that written down, and you know it.
That he's co-writing the Joker series.
So let's get into that.
Sorry.
So that was the next piece, anyways. John Carpenter, the legendary director behind the original Halloween and the most recent. I don't think he directed; he produced, right? The recent retcon sequel, whatever.
He was involved.
He was involved, right? They went back to using him as like
he did The Thing.
Tell
also,
us what
the
to
original
do.
One was
he did The Thing. You're absolutely right.
That's such a good
He's done
movie.
a lot of really great stuff, and I can't remember. That's what we were talking about. Who did? Was it Craven or was it Carpenter who did The Hills Have Eyes?
That sounds like Wes Craven.
It may have been Craven.
Anyways, I don't think that's.
It's not Stephen King, right?
No, of course not. No.
So.
But anyways, so John Carpenter, who was the reason I had a lot of nightmares as a kid, he is signed on to co-write a Joker miniseries. Is it?
It's the Year of the Villain one shot.
Oh, it's the Year of the Villain one shot.
Did you see the cover on that?
Wait, that's what he's fucking doing?
Yeah, it's the Year of the Villain one shot.
Kidding.
So it's gonna be, and the cover is phenomenal because Joker has this dreary, almost melting face, and he's painting blood on a skull with skin still on it. So it's already amazing.
It looks good. Speaking of the Joker director Todd Phillips has said that the Joker movie that we're going to see, which everyone hold your opinion real quick. The movie that we're going to see is ignoring the comics completely. We are not going, and I think what he meant was we are not going to see an adaptation of a storyline. This is not The Killing Joke. We're not going to get Easter eggs to certain storylines, and we're not going to get that stuff. This is its own thing.
Yes.
It's more about the character than it is about, where the character came from. And I just want to start with, I usually want to know what you guys have to say, but I want to start with something real quick. And that is that's fucking perfect. And the reason that's perfect is that everybody is complaining like, you can't make a Joker origin movie because the Joker never had a defined origin. Okay, well, first of all, take this as that. This is just another... Technically, the Batman 89 movie was a Joker origin movie, because we saw how Jack Napier became the Joker in that movie. Technically, we got the... in The Dark Knight, we didn't get an origin from that, but he did give us the idea that, I have many origins. Who knows? He told a bunch of stories. In my second favorite book of all time, Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, we technically got an origin through that, but he also said, if I had to have an origin, I'd rather it be multiple choice. If I had to have a past, I'd rather it be multiple choice. And just take this as that, man. This is another one of those possible, this is where the Joker comes from. It doesn't have to be set in stone in your brain. Just enjoy it. And I love that we're once again getting a story that's going to be different than what we've seen and give us a possible explanation for how the Joker became the Joker. Matt, what do you think?
I don't know if this will sound silly, but that's exactly what I expected from this movie.
Me too.
Not trying to say, like, look how smart I am. I'm just saying, like, that's what I got. That's the vibe I got, is I was like, this is an original take on a famous character. I'm down with it. I think it's going to be cool. I've been intrigued by it since they, said they were doing it. I think everybody's so conditioned, too, that everything has to be connected. Like, how's it going to connect to this? I don't think it's going to connect to anything. I think it's a one-off.
Well, I never saw anything that had the same vibe, which is very clearly the Scorsese kind of noir drama. The only thing that ever came close, which me and Tony disagree with on pretty heavy, was Brian Azzarello's Joker. Had much more of a crime bossy vibe, like a mafia. I think it much more had a mafioso vibe to it. And I wasn't a big fan of it until I sat and read it again and really soaked it in, and Tony convinced me, or he made me realize how great it was. But I just didn't think, ever since we got the first trailer, I was like, we've never seen this Joker story immediately. So, Tony, what do you think?
I think the one thing I love about this that everyone seems to forget is unreliable narrator is exactly what the Joker is. American Psycho, the whole movie, it's a horror movie. Right. But by the end, you're like, what just happened? And how can we not do exactly that with the Joker? If he is the narrator, which that all depends on, like, and it sounds like he is because he's talking in the trailer. I hope he is.
Right.
This story could be nothing. Turn out to be not at all what you see. Like, there's going to be so many things probably sprinkled in this movie leaving you delirious and confused.
Right.
And it's a horror movie. It's supposed to be an Oscar winner. People are like, this is not a movie for Joker fans necessarily. And just because you say something isn't a comic origin or it's not from the comics, that doesn't mean he didn't read the comics. It doesn't mean he doesn't know who the Joker is. It simply means I'm not rewriting someone else's story. This is my Joker, and I'm going to show you what you wanted to see. You just don't know it yet.
I'm all for being faithful to comics. But when I say being faithful to comics, it's kind of going back to that we need to stop living purely in nostalgia. There's a lot of people who do nothing but talk shit about today's comics because when I was coming up, all right, they're not the same. They're different. Batman used a fucking gun in the 30s and he said he old chum people. And it was really weird. And Alfred was a much more bizarre character, and none of the characters that you like today were the same when they were first conceived. And what I mean by that is just the fact of things are changing. That doesn't negate the amazing level of story that we're getting today. And to see a new interpretation is always exciting. What I want when I say faithfulness is I never want the core values and ideas of the character to change. I don't want the character to suddenly be somebody else. If it's Superman, that's the reason why I know you guys love Man of Steel so much, but that's why, and I love Man of Steel too, but that's why my problem with it was he wasn't that symbol of hope. Yes, S on his chest may have stood for hope, but Superman, when I think of Superman, is the Boy Scout. I think of him as that symbol of, things are going to be okay because he's just so bright and hopeful. When you have a story like, Injustice, that's meant to be the antithesis of that, But when we're in a movie, in a series of movies that's supposed to be main continuity and supposed to build a universe, just be faithful to the characters. You don't have to be faithful to storylines, but be faithful to the characters.
And in those movies, though, like, from what I had heard, he was supposed to become that Superman
Right.
by Justice League. So I loved Man of Steel, except for the part where his dad died. I still think heart attack was the best way to go.
Yeah, the tornado threw me through a
He couldn't
loop.
save him from a heart attack. But I think what I loved is that the first two movies were developing a Superman that didn't know what to do yet. I love this Superman that was, like, vulnerable to other people's opinions, and, like, he was an alien on Earth. Like, he had to deal with that. But then Justice League was supposed to bring him into, like, I'm your hero, I'm your savior, I'm always a hopeful man, I'll be your symbol.
Yeah,
but it didn't.
The only thing I'll say against that is that, again, the one of the appeals to Superman in general was that he still was raised here, all but born here. You know, he was here since he should have learned a lot of lessons growing up, especially, which is why we're going to talk about Superman Year One later in this episode. But one of the best parts about it is the heavy leaning on the lessons he learned from Pa Kent, which is why I named myself Pa Kent.
Can I tell you that I think the best line of that whole movie came from Martha Kent? I'll specify which Martha, because we know that's a big deal. When she tells him, I thought this was amazing. Whether it's amazing writing, you know, Diane Lane, yeah. When she says, "Be their symbol," you know, be their hero,
right,
or don't be any of it. Like, I like how she's saying you don't have to do this.
The damn thing.
Like,
yeah.
I thought that was incredible.
Yeah,
Well, it was
good
amazing.
line.
But
sorry.
He's still an alien. Like, Clark Kent's
Right.
not the one on trial. Clark Kent is fine. It's Superman on trial for being, like, he can't help but, like, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he's still being ostracized. And I think that's real.
Yeah.
Like, he grew up in, what, like, the 80s? So times change. He grew up probably seeing racism and
No,
stuff.
yeah, and
I think it just has to be tough for, like, him to just go into this world
right,
and then suddenly be himself and it not go the way it's supposed to go.
I'm not saying that, but again, like, one of the great things about this book is that, you know, we are getting to see that he had to make those choices. He already had to make those choices.
Yeah.
We already saw what it was like being an invulnerable human being not a human being, but an invulnerable quote unquote human being, and dealing with bullying or dealing with what happens when somebody tries to hurt you. And regardless of your secret identity, the choices you have to make, you know, how do you handle it and how do you deal with that? Because you don't have to worry about yourself. You can murder that person.
I did like the parts where he's like, I know I could just destroy this kid. And then his dad's like, that's the hard choice you have to make.
Right.
Like, I loved their dialogue for, like, him growing up. Like, he was just telling him, like, you know you can, and, like, nobody can hurt you, and you can hurt them.
And that's the point,
better.
is that when I, you know, and maybe I'm being a little hard on it, but when I see a fully grown Superman or a fully grown Clark Kent, he has enough of Jonathan Kent instilled in him now that, you know, there should have been just a little more optimism in his view, because the whole movie seemed a little dreary. It had that you know, scope kind of laid over it where everything was very, very solemn, and it felt like watching a funeral for 2.5 hours. I didn't mind that he fucking killed Zod. I mind that he killed Zod and the fact that Zod should not die as a character, but I didn't mind that he killed somebody because, you know, I've always thought that when it comes for the greater good, I mind that it was so easy for him.
You know what's funny is it's almost like that was put right in front of us from the beginning. I just thought about it years later. He got locked up in the Phantom Zone at the beginning. So what was the alternative? Was they just going to put him back? And I was like, oh, crap. I mean, it was kind of like letting you know they can't put him in the Phantom Zone. He's going to have to die.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
I don't want to speak on it too much because it's been talked about forever, years now. But
I agree.
I think there's just something, like, it was so, like, real compared to anything I've seen. Like, I think Superman's optimism is iconic, but it's almost also a joke. Like, it's almost, like, overdone.
Is that not what makes him great? Is that not just the fact that... I
do think it's great, but he had to earn it in this world. He was still being, like, not talked about like what he wanted to be. So it was watching him earn that made me give him more purpose than him just being
What I'll say is
perfect.
I don't think he earns Lois Lane until he's already earned that side of him.
Correct, and he had her already.
That's the side of him that made me never like that character. I told you I was never a Superman fan until after Man of Steel.
Yeah,
Well,
see,
and
it
I wasn't
humanized
either,
him
but
in a new way. It did so much to me for a character that had nothing to grow from, and it showed me he can. But again, it's been talked about a million times.
I became a Superman fan more recently through the writing.
Yeah,
and what we're getting exemplified in the books is that Boy Scout side of him, and they do it so well with the fact that he constantly acknowledges. He says, "Yes, I may be a little optimistic, but." You know, it's because I believe that we're going to be able to make this okay. And I love that. Like, as people who grow up in our society that we do, as somebody who, you know, whether you're a kid who has just been bullied your whole life, a kid who came from broken homes, people attach themselves to their media of choice, whether it's comics or movies or whatnot, for a reason, right? Because they feel something. And when I was growing up, the reason it was Batman was because I was bullied and I was from a broken home. I didn't have a lot to turn to. And this guy spent his entire life beating up those bad people. You know, he spent, in my childish brain, I thought he beat up bullies, and that's what he did. Superman, I never connected with until I became an adult, and I realized, like, man, this guy has seen so much, and he's been through so much, and he's seen the worst that the world has to offer, but he still believes it can be okay. And I always thought that was what was amazing about Superman. But regardless, we're behind. So, Matt, do you have any idea what time it is?
Time for me to let everybody know real quick that Endgame is only $7.16 million away from Avatar.
Guys, please go see Endgame as many
so
times
close.
as you can
It's so obnoxiously
no,
close.
Don't do it.
As somebody who doesn't fucking like Avatar, go see it as many times as you can stomach.
I just want them to have done all this work and it not work. I'm just that guy.
Other than that, it is time for an ad read.
It's time for an ad read.
I wish our last guest was here to introduce it.
Matt.
He was so enthused.
Matt, it's time for an ad read. It's time for an ad read.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? Me and Matt really do hope that you love the Bat in the Hat podcast, but did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks. Or if you're a good human being, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn.
So here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code just for you. Simply use our code, BAT in the Hat, and you'll get 300 Podcoin. Podcoins? Podcoin. Just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or maybe even an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead. Go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin. Sign up with code BAT in the Hat. I swear, it's going to change the way you listen to your podcast forever.
Wow, what a fantastic ad read.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I wasn't really feeling that one.
Yeah, no.
It just felt really scripted and just so familiar.
They're all just running together now at this point where it almost seems like we're not doing them live.
I wasn't impressed.
That's just not the case.
Well, thanks for adding to it.
Weird that Tony didn't chime in at all.
No, why do all of our guests never add anything?
Yeah, they don't like being part of the ad
we've
reads.
had a lot of guests at this point, too.
Two whole guests.
When you duct tape my mouth shut,
Hey, you're not supposed to tell anybody about that.
So we're gonna move into one of the main topics, which is Spider-Man: Far From Home. We all saw it. Hopefully, all you guys at home saw it. And man, I've been really getting kind of neck deep in Spider-Man lately. I just bought Spider-Man PS4 finally. Really been getting into the lore of Miles Morales, and I didn't even know he was in the game, so I was really excited for that.
Yep.
I think that
have you beat it yet? I was just gonna ask.
I beat the main story, yeah.
Did you see, did it show a cinematic close to the story?
Yes, I saw that, yes.
You see what happened after?
He got bit by the spider, and he revealed his powers.
No, we're not talking about that. There's something else.
There's
a bigger reveal.
A huge reveal.
Apparently not.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it.
Hold on, now I need to know what the fuck.
Do you want to say
Should we? I mean, it's been out forever.
Yeah.
It's up to... Yeah, I'll let you say it.
So it's about Harry Osborn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you saw that and how basically he has the symbiote.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
understand that either. I was so
crazy.
That's where he's been the whole game. Is
Yeah, his dad,
Well,
like,
no, I got.
cocooned
him. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I got
No,
that he
so-
was
okay.
in the vat of
Yeah.
whatever, but
It's
I
like, big time
I-
spoiler.
I thought that, however they healed him, I thought that they were just gonna like green goblin him. But
Yeah,
no,
we all
then
did.
he put his hand on the glass and the symbiote comes forward, and I'm
How
like, what
wild
the
is that?
fuck
That's
is
awesome.
going on?
I love that they're just going like, no, we're just going a different way this
That's
time.
awesome.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. But Spider-Man PS4 has been nothing but fun.
Great time.
A lot of good shit. I've watched Into the Spider-Verse like 4 times this last week.
Yeah.
I have too, actually.
it's
I can't
such a
stop
great
watching
It's
movie.
the best Spider-Man.
And that
movie.
damn Post Malone song, I can't stop
Yeah.
singing it.
No, yeah.
Sunflowers with Sway Lee.
Is that, all right, so question. Is
Yeah.
that the guy that does the voice of Miles Morales? He's not the guy that's singing in that song.
No. The guy
It
who does the
almost
voice
sounds
of
like him.
It
the guy who does
almost.
the voice of
That's
Miles
weird.
Morales was in a really great movie called Dope on Netflix.
Yeah.
And man, what a fantastic movie that was! And I was really excited when I found out he was going to play Miles, and I think he killed it, man. He knocked it out of the
yeah.
park.
Awesome. I thought everybody
I mean,
did.
look at the reviews. Look at people talk about it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it
unbelievably
was.
great movie.
Now, I will say that this was a movie that the first time I saw it, I was slightly, not very much, but slightly underwhelmed because of the hype that was built around it.
What, Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse.
Oh, I was the opposite.
It
I
was
went in
so-
thinking it was going to be not good.
Everybody came to me saying it was the greatest fucking movie ever made, and I was so excited to see it, and I went to go see it, and I was like, man, that was a really good movie, but something about it didn't hit the same as everyone else.
I was the exact opposite.
Yep.
I was like, this isn't going to be as good as everyone says.
Right.
It's been overhyped. And I went in and I was like, that was even better
So
than
let
what
let,
they
let me
said.
tell you
With-
what's weird though,
Same.
and this is the same with me for a lot of stuff. The second fucking time I watched it, I just got obsessed.
You just confirmed my theory, because I have realized the older that I got, things need at least 2 viewings.
There's
I
a
do
lot
not-
of things that do.
I mean,
yeah.
it really does. It can make or break something for me.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
season
things
three
that
of
need a
Stranger
second viewing.
Things.
You
Season
know what
three
I
for
haven't
me.
seen a second time since it came out?
Endgame?
Thor: The Dark World.
Oh.
And now I'm thinking I need to watch that movie again because it was
Justice
such a
League.
big part of Endgame.
Yeah,
but-
I've only seen Endgame once.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
me
didn't
too.
go back
Yeah, I
and
didn't go see it for the re-release.
It's about to come out on digital.
Yeah, when
so.
it comes out digital,
Yeah.
I'll rent it immediately and it'll be good.
So we said let's talk about Far From Home, and we haven't even mentioned.
Well,
a
so
single...
that's what I'm leading into. So we all saw Far From Home, and again, we're not going to go through the whole movie because we got other stuff to talk about. But I'm going to go ahead. We're going to keep this nice and short. But
The whip.
I hate you.
To clarify, he's saying thwip, which is the literal sound that the web shooter.
Thank you for that explanation of onomatopoeia.
It's not for you. It's for them.
for the people listening at home who don't know what the fuck Spider-Man is.
Who didn't see Spider-Verse where they explained the whip.
So somebody brought up one of the great things about that. You know what? I learned something great about Spider-Verse. They did so many things to artistically and just give you that feel of Spider-Verse, and what one of them was you know how frame rates work basically, and how they work in an animation cell. So for those of you who don't know, if you have a movie and the whole movie is set in say 24 frames per second, that's the pace of the movie. If you change that, a lot of times it can feel off. So what they did is, the reason Peter Parker always felt so smooth is he was animated in 24 frames per second. Miles Morales was animated in 12 frames per second. So that means every other frame was the same frame as the last. So the frames were doubled, which is like an anime technique. They do it for anime a lot. That's why he felt so clunky through a lot of it, until finally he became the Spider-Man we knew at the end, and they animated him in 24 frames, showing which just made him kind of evolve into that smoothness of being Spider-Man.
It's funny you
That's
said that,
brilliant.
because the animation, the first time I saw the movie, was so jarring at
Yeah.
the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I can get through
And
this.
that may
Yeah,
have been one of the
exactly.
reasons I didn't like it the first
Yeah.
time, just because it takes a minute for you to seed into it. And one thing they did was a lot of the times, to force perspective, which was great. It's a great idea. You had a lot of those comic book style dots going across whatever they wanted to blur
the
out.
screen tones, yeah.
Right, and then you're into it, and I thought that was cool, but some things about that, my favorite thing of the whole movie was just when they're leaving with the computer they stole from Doc Ock,
Oh,
or
that's
that
like one of the best
the
parts of
ultimate
it.
Doc Ock, and he
Yeah.
throws the bagel and it hits the guy, and it just says bagel across the screen.
Yeah.
And I just was like, man,
You know
this
what it-
movie's amazing.
You know what it actually looked like? It looked like you were watching a 3D movie without your glasses.
Yeah, it
at
did.
the beginning.
Exactly.
And I'm
Absolutely.
serious. I was like, I am not sure I can
No.
sit through this. And
Right.
then
I
you
just think
realize how
that-
good the movie was, and you're like, oh, I don't care.
The fact that they had, when you're learning about the original Peter Parker, which is weird now that I think about it, because that was the ultimate.
That's
Peter,
Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's Ultimate Peter Parker,
And Chris
but
Pine.
they recreated a lot of the Tobey Maguire scenes. And you
Yeah.
remember they threw the car through the window and he punches it back. When you see Doc Ock, it was not female Doc Ock.
Well,
Those were or at least those were not her arms. Those were different arms.
yeah.
And those were like the Doc Ock from the movie. And I was like, that's hilarious. That being said, I love that we got all of those. That movie was so full of great Easter eggs.
there was one, probably the most subtle one, and I still am like, you have to like freeze the frame perfectly to see it, is when Kingpin's trying to bring Vanessa and his son back.
Right.
You know how they're like fracturing through time.
Right.
And I finally found it. There is one where his son is dressed up like, I'll just say like Charlie Cox. Like he looks like Daredevil.
Right.
Like he's wearing the actual glasses and he's
Right.
got the cane.
That's
and it's
really
like,
cool.
whoa, you're telling me in one of the universes
Yeah.
his son is Matt
There's
Murdock?
a lot of really great Easter eggs if you go frame by frame in that
Yeah.
movie. Like, there's a lot of shit they just hid in there. And I will say that John Mulaney is one of my favorite human beings on this planet. And
my
him
God.
being Spider-Ham or Spider-Pig or whatever you call him.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Ham was phenomenal.
Peter
but,
Porker.
yeah, Peter Porker.
He said it'll fit in your pocket.
but
when he
anyways,
gives it a mouth.
going
That's
back
all,
to-
folks. Is he
going
allowed
back
to
to-
say that?
Far From Home, the reason I bring up Spider-Verse was because I want to keep it separate from what we're going to talk about, because
Okay.
I think it stands by itself. So when I ask your favorites of things, we're not talking about Into the Spider-Verse.
Michael Keaton.
Sure.
Batman.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Who
Spider-Man.
was right off the bat, who was your favorite live-action Spider-Man so far?
Take it away.
I was a big Tobey Maguire fan.
Me too.
Even almost all the way through Homecoming. The scene, and this is what got me back in the MCU in general. The scene where Tom Holland is in the rubble and screaming out for help. I've never connected
Yeah.
more with a Spider-Man, let alone an actor and a character,
Yeah.
in a long time in that scene. And the way that was all shot and done, I just instantly was like, he can be Spider-Man for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
He had
Yep.
done so much in that scene as an actor where I was like, no, you know what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
you are Spider-Man now.
Absolutely.
And it only got better from there in a movie that should have been like, it had its like
Climax.
climax, but it should have still been relaxing a little bit, and he only got better.
Yeah.
I still think Tom Holland right now is the best one we've ever had.
That's
Matt.
wild you brought that specific scene up, because I remember when I saw it, and I don't want to say like, oh, I almost cried, but like it had like an emotional
yeah.
like
Yeah,
resonance, and I was like,
You
and
did
it was the
connect.
same thought. I was like, that kid is Peter Parker. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
It hurts. You're like, oh
Yeah,
no,
it's
don't hurt
crazy.
the kid. You're suddenly like, yeah, don't hurt this kid anymore.
So,
Like,
Yep.
so we can all, I think, agree live action wise, we're Tom Holland fans for sure.
yeah,
From the moment he
that
became
now that will
Spider-Man,
never
yes.
detract from my love for the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
yeah,
Can
definitely.
I can I clarify that I think Andrew Garfield was my favorite Peter Parker?
Wow.
If that
That's
makes
interesting.
sense.
Wow.
If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think he was one of my favorite Spider-Mans, but not
No,
my favorite
his
Peter Parker.
Spider-Man, just throw that in the garbage. But his Peter Parker, I
Wow.
thought was
So I will say
awesome.
before you guys even go any further on that, I adored both Amazing Spider-Man movies
terrible.
and did not have nearly as big an issue as everybody else. And all the way down to the stupid things people hated, like the Green Goblin and the Rhino, I loved. Just because, again, in my head, I think I do have this ability to be like, this is its own thing. It's its own. It's not. I'm not looking at it like it's the 616 universe. I'm not looking at it like it's going to join the Avengers. In my head, they're their own thing, and I loved it, and I very much liked it, and I was upset when he wasn't going to come back for a third one. That being said, I'm very happy we have Tom Holland now, and
Fair
to
enough.
to put on top of that, fucking. As much as I love the original Sam Raimi movies, Tobey Maguire was a shit pick for
Yeah, he
Spider-Man.
sucked. I never
Oh,
He
liked
was
him.
bad casting, and he was not. God, he's such a fucking
You
nerd.
know my boy that I can't pronounce his name, Joe Manganiello,
Joe
played
Manganiello.
Flash Thompson.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
Joe
Flash
Manganiello.
Thompson. Yeah,
I thought Andrew Garfield, like,
Here
the
it is.
movies. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted so much of them to be good. Watching
Right.
it when I saw the lizard, like I was like, "Oh, this is real
Yeah.
shit. This is my fucking
The
Spider-Man.
Lizard looked great,
and it was, and the Lizard was good. I think he had a good storyline. I couldn't stand him as Peter. His cocky attitude with his hair, I was just like, no. Like, even with Tobey Maguire being weird casting choice and he was awkward. He had that, like, I'm not confident Peter, but then was funny as Spider-Man. And Andrew Garfield to me was just a goober.
But you know what's the thing about that is, to me, that Peter Parker, and you may not agree, but that Peter Parker that you want is a very small part of Peter Parker's history.
He's in the animated series if you want the perfect Peter Parker, by the way.
And I feel like that Peter Parker is him being the little nerd and the little, like, uncomfortable. That's such a small part, because Peter Parker throughout all of comics, throughout all of history, has blossomed into something else. And the fact that they just didn't make him that while he was in high school for that scene, because the second one, while they're graduated high school and they're a different, he's with, the fuck is her name?
Emma Stone.
Gwen Stacy.
Oh,
yeah,
same person.
Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy.
You're not wrong.
It made more sense. But just the fact that they didn't make him the little fucking nerd. He still got beat up by Flash. He was still trying to figure out his powers. I didn't mind that as much because we had so much more movie and so much more stuff to get to.
You want to know why I mind it? Is Tom Holland is doing exactly that and better than any of them put together.
But he's still in high school. In these movies, he's still in that stage. And I won't disagree with you. I'm just saying that if he continues to be this Peter, when he gets a little more experience and whatnot, it's going to annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah. But, like, the point is, I didn't feel like Andrew Garfield's ever showed a real development. Tom Holland is developing very, like, in the way he should be.
Can I say that I think that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man reacted to losing his uncle and being Spider-Man more realistically than I think anybody would?
You can't say that.
I can say that. I think that anybody who you were bullied or you were not the cool guy in school, you were kind of a loner and you just lost your uncle after you were being a complete prick, and you lost your parents, you're a fucking orphan, you're dealing with shit, and then you get superpowers. You're probably gonna act just like he acted the minute he got those spider powers.
Can we just agree that Peter Tingle is the best thing that has ever come out of any of this?
The first time I heard it, I was like, no,
they
marveled it.
I cringed
but by
so
the end,
hard.
I was like, let's see the Peter Tingle.
So yeah,
let's love his reaction where he said, don't say that. Yeah. Like, don't say that anymore.
Can we not say this?
Let's focus on Far From Home then, because I think that first of all, best live action Spider-Man movie we've gotten out of all of them. Don't care what anyone says. That's my opinion. I loved it. I think that it was ripped straight out of the 90s animated series and a little bit of the comic books, and those Mysterio scenes where where you as the viewer couldn't figure out when it was real, when it was not real, really fucking were great. And when he pushed him in front of that train and finally, whap, I was like, that is amazing. I loved every bit of it. It started out slow, but appropriately slow. There were things from the trailer we didn't see in the movie because we know we're going to get them in the bonus, footage and whatnot. I think that something I disagree with what a lot of people have been saying is I'm very happy that Happy Hogan is played a part, because I think that with as much as Tony Stark meant to Peter Parker, with Happy just vanishing all of a sudden, that wouldn't be realistic. That wouldn't make sense. I think Happy stepping in and kind of taking a little bit of a role in that was nice. I love Aunt May. I wanted to do bad things to her because she is just so gorgeous for her age still. What's her name? I can't remember.
Marissa Tomei.
Marissa Tomei, thank you. And I thought that the movie in all just had a really great feel. And when they fucking were on that plane and he was like, you got to make yourself a suit, and he starts making the suit and it's 3D printing shit, and you saw not only the actual Iron Spider suit down there, but he said, I got the music, and starts playing Back in Black, I stood up from my chair. I got so excited. I was so into everything of this movie. We knew what Mysterio was going to be. He was not going to be a good guy. We knew how the movie was kind of going to play out. Of course, we all guessed that. But the fact that we still kind of knew what was happening, and it still managed to surprise you throughout most of the movie with how they did it, man, that knocked my socks off. And I don't want to talk about the ending yet, but we're going to talk about that together. But what you guys go. What do you think?
I was just going to say, to your point about people complaining about Happy Hogan and stuff, you would think after 5 movies in, they need to just accept that this version of Peter Parker has strong ties to Tony Stark. That's not going to change. It just is what it is what it is. Like, you have to move on. That being said, I love it. I have from the very beginning. I love that he basically, you know, has that. Tony Stark's like his Uncle Ben in the MCU. It just is what it is. Similar to the scene you mentioned in Homecoming that we discussed, the scene where Happy's watching him and realizes he looks identical to Tony when he's doing the 3D printing. Made it all go full circle.
When he put his
for me.
hand through the hologram,
And he did
just
it the
like
same
Tony
way.
did, he did the same
cried.
movement.
It had the same
I almost cried, dude.
reaction
Yeah.
because he goes, and then when Happy looks at him and he goes, what? And he goes, you just remind me of something. And then if you've been there from the beginning, like we all have,
Yeah.
you kind of,
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah. It was a big love letter to Tony Stark,
but-
and it was great.
Yeah, to kind
Which,
of
again, is,
Bearing.
I think that, and people may disagree, but his character ending, his character arc is over, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think this was an appropriate send-off because they made the movie that was its own movie, but still a love letter to Tony Stark. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot less of him in the, like, we're going to be referencing him a lot less in the future.
if they cheese it up and make him an AI or something, I'm gonna hate it.
Right.
I really, the only other I wanted out of the movie is when he got what was it? Not Edith.
Edith.
Was it
The
Edith?
glasses.
Yeah.
are Edith,
I was hoping it would be like, hey kid, I left one last thing for you. Like
Yeah.
that would be the one time you heard him speak. And then I was like, I'd live with that. But to kind of wrap up what I thought of the movie,
Edith, even dead, I am the hero.
Yeah,
I fucking
that's hilarious.
died.
But when Mysterio got to be Mysterio,
Yes.
when he wasn't playing the role anymore, that was amazing. I love the way that their version of him worked, how he wasn't actually doing anything.
Right.
He's wearing a mocap suit.
Yeah.
It made sense to me. I loved it. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal, when he got to play the real character,
Yeah.
was fantastic.
And he had the faux suit to jump into.
Yep.
He's like,
Yep.
in a few hours I could
need the
literally
cape!
In a few hours I could literally be having lunch with the queen.
And I
Like,
told,
Yeah.
and you know, I've told you in the past my affection for Gyllenhaal, that I call everybody their name Gyllenhaal. Like,
Yeah.
that's just, it is what it is. I thought it was awesome. I'll skip the end, like you said, but
Right.
Overall, loved it. I
just-
liked Homecoming better,
Which-
but Mysterio.
disagree.
Which
Homecoming
end?
was great though, I will
Which
say.
end are we talking about?
The after credits, yeah, I
Oh,
wanna
okay,
Oh,
okay.
oh, so I can.
No.
without-
Yeah, you can talk about the ending. Just skip the after credits
well,
stuff.
and the last thing I'll say,
Yeah,
and then you
go
take
ahead.
over.
That's why I was asking.
I was cool with the fact that they killed him off.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine.
But
I'm
that
cool
leaves
with
the
it.
big question. Is he dead?
Yes, I believe he's dead because
You believe,
the
but there
ending
was,
that we'll
I
talk
mean, there
about.
really was nothing confirming the fact that he was dead by
Other
the
than
end
his
of that
corpse.
movie.
Edith.
Huh?
Edith said there was no illusions.
Yeah, when he said, "Is this real?" and she was like, "Yeah, there's
They're
no
current-
illusions."
But okay, well,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Because of course we saw his guy pull the flash drive, and we're like, "Oh, he's not really dead." But more on that later.
Right.
That's when I was like, "Oh, he's not dead." And then when they did the other piece, that's when I was
Right.
like, "He really
All right,
is dead."
Tony.
So okay, yeah. I think he had Edith for how many days? 2, at least 2. I'm pretty sure he probably hacked Edith. Like I'd be very confident that he could have hacked Edith.
Yeah.
To do to stage this whole event. Like he's a performer.
Do I
he's
think
still
that him or
alive.
his team could hack something Tony Stark himself put
Oh,
together, though?
Yeah, definitely.
You think?
Yeah,
Okay.
they all work for Tony Stark, and something now his whole
That was a twist I was excited
loved it.
about.
I
That
loved it.
they were all disgruntled,
Yeah.
Stark
I
employees.
thought it was perfect.
Is anybody getting fatigued by that yet, though? Like everybody is tied to Tony Stark. Like when are we gonna get?
Well, that's
people that
what
aren't?
I'm
It
saying.
was the
I think
last
that
tie we needed.
I
in my
think this
opinion.
movie is the real send off for Tony Stark. It was his love letter, and now going forward, it's going to be a lot more focused on the rest of what's going on.
I feel like it was the perfect way to make Mysterio a bad guy too, because like introducing someone as like weird and goofy as Mysterio can be,
Right.
You need a grounding tool for him, and having them be disgruntled was like a perfect tool. I don't want to compare the movies at all. I think Mysterio and the Vulture were just as good in their roles. I thought Keaton was untouchable as a Vulture.
So,
but
you know
Gyllenhaal
what?
was Mysterio too.
I may be
like,
a little-
It's not the same movie.
Yeah.
It's so tough to compare. Overall.
I may be a little biased about that because of the fact that the end credit scenes blew me away so bad that it really made the movie complete for me. So I will say that I couldn't really compare Far From Home and Homecoming.
You shouldn't. That's the
Because
problem.
you're right, man. Keaton as the Vulture was excellent. I mean,
And I think this was the best way to conclude Endgame. I
Right.
didn't want this movie at first, honestly. I was like, give me some more time.
I
But
know
the
you
way
didn't.
they did their homage to Cap in
Right.
there, They talked about Endgame. They talked about the blip.
Those students who put together the in memoriam video,
for
Cap and whatnot.
I was talking about the end part with the sign and the.
So there's a question though for when the students put together that in memoriam video. You had the one for Tony Stark, which was funny because they used like stock footage from the Iron Man posters and stuff, and then they had for Cap. And so here's the question that's the internet's talking about. Do the kids think he's dead because that's how the Avengers explained his going away?
I think he died in the seat. Why is anyone like he's dead? Like why is anyone acting like he didn't die in peace right there? That was the whole point. Is he's like, now I can go in peace.
You think at the end of Endgame, sitting on that bench, he just died?
Died. By the way, Mysterio is not dead. We'll get into the other part later.
Okay.
No, this is literally. Especially since they're setting up Sinister Six,
right?
You can't not have
Mysterio's not part of the Sinister Six.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Google it.
Hold on, Vulture.
We have a Sinister Six statue set at work, and he is definitely in there.
It does change. It does change.
Well, there's also the Sinister Syndicate, so maybe you're thinking about that.
Ooh,
it's lame.
I'm just thinking Shocker, Rhino, Vulture. Green
I don't
Goblin.
think Shocker. I think it's Electro.
Electro.
I don't think
I'm
it's
sorry.
Shocker.
I
Yeah.
did confuse
Doc Ock,
the two.
Mysterio.
Doc Ock.
I don't remember.
Mysterio?
Right
Really?
I know Mysterio is though.
Okay.
Chameleon.
But overall, I thought the movie.
That's one that they think is going to be because of the big dude with the giant nose in the.
No, he was a Skrull.
Huh?
That was Sorry, I think he was a Skrull. I think that's why he couldn't talk. I think he was part of the.
Why? Nick Fury could talk.
He was in the base with them. Well, there's always the one that was really awkward, and some of them have probably been in hiding for so long they probably don't want to give away.
People are saying that because of his name. I don't remember what it's a Russian name. That
Dimitri.
He's gonna,
I think he's
Dimitri. Yeah.
But all this to say, I think the movie did great. We needed it to conclude Endgame. We needed it to say goodbye to Tony Stark. That homage to him again, and I love Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I was like, perfect. Like, you did everything right in this movie.
Yeah.
But I'm going to complain. Zendaya is not MJ. She did great.
Disagree.
But she is not, no, I'm not saying she's not good or she's not MJ. She's not Mary Jane, and she never will be. She isn't.
I think that what they're doing with her right now is fine.
It's fine, but I don't want it.
And
I want
it's
Mary
cool
Jane.
that at least her name is not Mary Jane.
Well,
like, they call her MJ.
Michelle
and
Jackson.
Yeah,
Michelle Jackson.
But I want Mary Jane. I want the redhead. I want Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane, and I've gotten and I love Zendaya.
I want Felicia
I bet you're
Hardy.
Pretty upset about the whole Ariel being black thing too.
I don't. No, I'm. And by the way, Felicia Hardy, if she's not in the next movie, I want her and Doc Ock. I want a Batman Returns.
Do you think Spider-Man's old enough to have Felicia Hardy enter the scene?
We'll give him 2 years.
Huh?
Give him 2 years, and her be like 22 with some nice, like in that suit.
Personality.
He'll be like,
yeah, really great
personality in that letter.
He'll know exactly what's up.
Yeah,
they say Craven a lot too, right?
Craven's supposed to be getting his own movie from Sony.
Craven's on the docket though.
It's not. We don't need.
Wait. Unrelated. Never mind.
Sony,
I don't want him.
A Craven solo movie.
I want him to be a main.
That's like
villain.
a stupid. As a Joker solo
I'd rather
movie.
him come into the Spider-Man movies. And apparently now it's pretty confirmed that we may get Venom Spider-Man something soon because
you know what I heard is that they're casting their own Spider-Man for that movie.
I've heard the same thing. Yeah,
and I am.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where I don't even want to speculate, to be honest. Because
it doesn't matter.
I don't fucking care, man. Like we
the
there's
second
no
they
way
say,
that we're gonna there's no way we can know. There's so many options up in the air right now that to speculate is kind of stupid.
I'll tell you that the second they say Tom Hardy confirmed each time, I'm good.
Yeah, I know.
Cool. No problem.
You get a real Hardy for Tom.
Oh, that's funny.
Can't Sony take back Spider-Man
anytime they want? Yep.
Then I feel like why not?
They also told them that if Far From Home doesn't make $1 billion, then which its opening weekend it made over $500 million. So they said that if it doesn't make $1 billion in its theatrical run, they'll take it back.
Take it back for one movie. Give me Spider-Man and Venom vs. Carnage.
Only if they use Tom Holland and they do it that way.
Yeah, with Tom Holland. That's what I'm saying.
Fine.
Take Tom Holland, give him one movie.
Well,
with
it's not even
Eddie,
giving him. It's not even taking him back. It's just share it.
If you bring back Tom Hardy in the MCU, you can do Secret Wars and give the symbiote back his webbing and his original suit that way. I feel like there's ways to do it, but I didn't write the Marvel universe.
That's what's cool about Venom is there was nothing in that movie that made it impossible for them to cross paths.
Yeah, I guess.
Thing.
I guess so. But the what's interesting is that
he's not New York ever.
San Francisco, just like Silent. What was it? Dark Protector. The story run.
Lethal
he did?
Protector.
Lethal
I
Protector.
I
in San
apologize
Francisco.
about interrupting you. I just want to
No.
say something after you're done, both of you guys.
Oh, I was just going to say that, again, I've been playing Spider-Man PS4 a lot, and one of the fun things about the game is the suits that you get to unlock. And the Secret War suit in that game looks nothing like the Secret War suit, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And because it's like blue neon lights and weird stuff, unless I'm not thinking of something.
They
but
used to color Venom blue in the comics, so I think it's like a callback to that.
I don't know. But
Did you get the Far From Home skins?
I did get all the Far From Home skins, and which I thought was interesting how they were already available. I mean, clearly it was DLC, but I just thought that was interesting that you could get, and the Spider Noir and whatnot.
Yeah.
The skin that I've been playing throughout most of the whole game, I just changed it now for the ability because, which I know you can use any ability on any of them, but there's one, I don't even remember what it's called, but he has a leather jacket, a red leather jacket. And,
Spider-Punk, right?
No, not Spider-Punk.
okay.
That was the jean jacket, but this one has like gloves and a leather jacket. It was called like Final War or something, Final something, but
I don't think I got to that.
I don't know, but
the one that DLC, I didn't.
The one that I've been playing the most as, ironically, was Scarlet Spider because it's my favorite suit. And he, which we all know is Ben Reilly, who goes to San Francisco and decides to be Scarlet Spider since Peter Parker is back being Spider-Man, and he is a clone of Peter Parker. And
I used the one where you look like the Red Hood.
is there one where you look like
Yeah,
the Red Hood?
it's like a robotic looking.
Yeah, he's got
one.
the robotic looking suit. He's actually got a red helmet, and I just lie to myself, and I'm like, I'm Jason Todd.
I was
remember that
yeah. I was the nerd who would like change to the noir suit at night. But no,
Oh my god!
my
He's like, it's got to be stealth.
It's
I thought it'd
getting
be
dark.
cool.
I
He
better
I thought-
better put on the noir
I'm
suit.
a Batman fan, so if he's at night, he's got to be in the black suit.
I
But want to
think,
say the last thing about Far From Home that was like weird for me,
Right.
is when he got New York, I suddenly was unhappy with the rest of the movie. Not like hated it or anything, but I was like, God, just give me friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and then that led into the after credits part that made me realize I'll never get that in this Marvel
Right.
universe, and I like was really upset about that.
I don't require friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but I do see why you want that.
You finally am back in New York, and then
I think we got that for like the first half of Homecoming.
If
though.
you
but it wasn't Spider-Man yet. He was becoming Spider-Man. Now we have him. He is Spider-Man, and then you immediately.
I just feel like that wouldn't translate as well in movies as it would in comics. You know what I mean?
Disagree.
If we want to discuss that first post-credit scene, how do you move forward? Do you want to let the viewers know what it was?
Yeah, so we're going to go over the post-credit scenes again. Big fucking spoilers, but the first post-credit scene was my favorite. So he's going to MJ, and he's like, you ready? And she's like, what? So he takes her swinging through New York. They drop down, and she's like, oh, I'm never doing that again. And immediately people are like, hey, it's Spider-Man. Hey, what's up, Spider-Man? And he's like, oh, I'm Spider-Man. And immediately he turns around and right on the because New York has those big
Times
TVs
Square.
on the side of every fucking building.
Was it? Yeah, it was in Times Square. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're in Times Square, and the big monitor in Times Square, and he goes, it's J. Jonah Jameson. And it's the same.
Simmons.
It's J.K. Simmons from the original Sam Raimi, which they didn't do the classic haircut and mustache and whatnot. Which there's two things I want to talk about real quick. Only because they said that they didn't ask J.K. Simmons until the final week of shooting if they could do that with him. And when he was traveling, they literally only had this window to do it so that it wouldn't get leaked and whatnot. They brought him in. They didn't have time to do the hair and makeup. And they said, this is a different universe. You have different hair. Record. And they literally said he came in and like on a bullshit put together barely set and recorded those lines real quick. And that's what we got because they wanted it to be such a surprise. So they had J.K. Simmons, who played J. Jonah Jameson in the original Spider-Man trilogy, come back and be J. Jonah Jameson. And this time he's a like Alex Ross. I'm sorry. Is his name Alex Ross? What's his name? The guy on the crazy guy on the internet. They're putting chemicals in the water to turn the freaking frogs gay.
It's like the game. He has a podcast. It's like the game. He has the podcast.
It is just like the game. He has,
that's how I took it.
like,
I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Is that the guy that went on Joe Rogan and was like,
Yeah.
I'm a little retarded.
Yeah, the same guy who went on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
That's such a great meme. It's
Yeah.
just like, I am a little
It's
retarded.
like a little retarded. But yeah, so he's very much like that guy.
Have you seen the other meme where it's Norman Osborn, Willem Dafoe, and it says, I'm sorry. There's one of them where it goes, I'm a bit of a retard myself.
My favorite, like, one of those is the
from
Pride
the
Month.
Thanksgiving. So yeah, from the
My favorite one was the Pride Month one where he's like, I'm actually, I happen to be a homosexual myself.
Oh,
retailers
yeah,
serve
the
Pride
retail
Month.
companies, they love to jump on. I'm a bit of a homosexual myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I praised my job. I praised Citibank for like keeping the pride flag up after they did, because they had it up for so long, and then finally yesterday they took it down, and I was like, Citibank.
Dude, this one's a little edgy, but like as soon as it was July 1st, they said there was the meme of the guy that played Mr. in The Hangover. You trying to fuck on me? Anyways, it's him, and he goes, companies on July 1st once Pride's over, and it says, so long, gay boys. And I'm not saying anything about anything negative, but that shit's funny.
It's just funny how they can make a
love...
meme and just like really capture how people care. Because those Pride memes are going on at the pinnacle of Pride sales and designs.
I love
July 1st it dropped.
Edgelord meme. I'm always good with it, but
get to the real spoiler.
Yeah, so J. Jonah Jameson comes on screen and he goes, here's a video from Mysterio. Mysterio had this video set up where he doctored it to be, Peter Parker or Spider-Man is destroying the city and he's released these drones and I don't think I can stop him. And then it shows him kind of die and Spider-Man standing over him, but it's only showing Spider-Man's legs and he's giving the execute order when he was telling Edith to execute all the drones. And they had cut it and edited it to look like he was doing this. And he said, and one last thing, Peter Parker's real identity, or Spider-Man's real identity is Peter Parker. And they flashed a big picture of Peter Parker on the screen. And Spider-Man was just looking like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, did you notice that's how Homecoming ended? Also with Aunt May?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was with the what the fuck?
What the fuck?
Yeah. Awesome. And then we got a second end credit screen. As mind-blowing as that was, we got another huge,
second one was huge
end credit scene where Nick Fury and Maria Hill are driving in their SUV, and then they're finally like, okay, we have a minute, and they was it mask? It wasn't masked. It was like the digital.
They just undo themselves.
Oh, because they're shapeshifters themselves. That's right. So they shapeshift back into themselves, and they are the Skrulls
Talos,
from Captain
right?
Talos
and his wife,
his wife from Captain Marvel. And they've been acting as Nick Fury and Maria Hill for we don't know how long. We just know that they are. And he calls Nick Fury, and Nick Fury is shown laying by the beach in a beach chair, and he picks up his phone and he doesn't answer it. Right? He doesn't answer it.
He listens. It's like a FaceTime. He's listening, but he hangs up.
Oh, that's right.
At the end
that's right.
Like after they've complained.
And he gets up and he stretches, and you see that it's just on a screen. He's not really at a beach, and he walks out of this little cube room, and he turns, and it shows he's in the vastness of space on a big starship full of Skrulls, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And the popular theory is that while S.H.I.E.L.D. was on Earth, they have a version of S.H.I.E.L.D. in space called S.W.O.R.D.
Cool.
And that he's now heading up S.W.O.R.D. And we're going to get a lot of that in the Guardians of the Galaxy and a lot of future movies. By the way, my favorite line from this entire movie was when he's like, I just don't, I'm not ready. What, why can't you get the Avengers? Where's Thor? And he goes, off-world. And he goes, what about Captain Marvel? And he says, do not invoke her name.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was so great.
I will say my favorite line is when they said, how's the new suit fit? And he goes, it's good, but it's a little tight by the old web shooter.
The old web shooters. Yeah. Fantastic movie, man. It was really good. I implore you guys to go see it. Make sure that if you haven't already seen it, if you have seen it, go again, because at least here in Jacksonville, they have it in 4DX at the Avenues. And I think I'm going to go see it in 4DX next weekend.
I saw it in Dolby. It was fantastic.
By the way, someone I know saw it in 4DX.
Yeah.
Said it was crazy. If you haven't done a 4DX before, don't go it's better to do it on your second viewing, because he said he saw it the first time and it distracted him the whole movie with how actually crazy it was. So
if you guys don't know what 4DX is, it's basically this crazy experience. Of course, you have 3D glasses. I think it's 3D.
Yeah. It's 3D
so you're still
glasses,
watching it 3D, but
yeah.
It's all like immersive. So basically, if it starts fucking snowing in the movie, it starts snowing in the theater. If you have a lot of water scenes, which Far From Home has, there's misters, there's all this stuff, your seats rumble, like all this stuff to really put you into the experience. And it's not that much expensive. Like a ticket at our AMC theater was like $14, and the one at the Regency for 4DX is $20. So that's not bad, man. Like, that's not bad at all. But you guys should definitely check out if you have a 4DX theater near you. look it up to see, and I'm sure they'll have Far From Home, because that's got to be an excellent movie to see. I think I'm going to do that next weekend.
Yeah, one quick thing about that final post-credit scene. Number one, to me, that explained the biggest plot hole to me, because I always wondered how the hell Mysterio tricked Nick Fury.
Right. I think
and
that
I was like,
was
Nick
everyone's
Fury,
thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and it filled that gap, and I was like, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
That was Talos. He wouldn't have known. Number two, I panicked when he called him and he said, I gave the kid the glasses like you said. And I was like, if this is Tony Stark, I will never watch another MCU movie ever again.
I was going to walk out of that theater because I thought it was about to show Tony Stark alive, and I was going to be like, fuck you guys.
Because the way he said that, and I was like, if it's Tony, I'm done. I'm never watching another MCU movie. But it wasn't, so I was good. I'll be at the next one.
What's great about that is
even though the next one I'm not excited about.
Yeah, my first thought was like, oh, so Nick Fury wrote that whole freaking note and probably did all this shit to make it seem like a gift from Tony, where probably the only thing Tony Stark left was Edith itself, and that he maybe wanted it to go to Peter, but the note and everything could easily have been Nick Fury being like, well, let's make this shit work. Like,
yeah, so I don't know. Agree to disagree, I guess, but the
whip.
The whip. But yeah, so we're running kind of late on time. We're like at the 2-hour mark, which is pretty average for our videos. But so we decided that we're going to actually split this into two kind of. We're going to finish out, just keep talking about Spider-Man for a few more minutes. And then Tony has been gracious enough to agree to come back next week. And we're going to do a special episode where we just talk about the comic book industry and those books, even though I gave that big diatribe at the beginning of this episode talking about how we have strayed far from it. But we will do it. It's going to be next week, next Monday, and I think it'll be good. But do you guys have any final thoughts on Spider-Man as a whole? Not just Far From Home, but, Spider-Verse, Far From Home, anything going on in right now?
On the internet, people have been throwing around that they would really love a live-action Spider-Verse with all of the actors.
I would not.
I would
disagree.
I would.
I think.
Do you think?
I want Miles.
Do you think
and
it could work?
Spider-Gwen.
I want Miles and Spider-Gwen. That's fine, but I don't think that we could have a spectacular live action movie as we got for Into the Spider-Verse. But then again, the end of Doctor Strange. Maybe I'm wrong.
Did you see Endgame and Infinity War?
Yeah, I guess.
I just think. I mean, it just falls into place. Somebody made like some fan art, and I'm like, Tobey Maguire would be the perfect one where his life went to hell.
I guess, yeah.
Andrew Garfield could die in the first 10 minutes. That would be fine.
The problem is, the reason why that stuff seems almost not good is because like all of those Spider-Man from the live action so far have technically supposedly been 616, Spider-Man. I do want the stuff we got in Spider-Verse where it's like, 833 Spider UK and stuff like that.
And how do you feel? No one's talked about this, which is blowing my fucking mind. How do you feel that the multiverse thing was never, like, it's fake, but it never really was like, oh, it's fake. Like, they just never, like, no one's upset about that. And that was a big deal with this movie.
So I'm only upset in the fact that, like, yeah, so he lied about the multiverse thing.
Yeah.
But he did name us 616, and he talked about how he was from 833, which is the Spider UK verse. So that just means to me that if they end up making the multiverse real in that universe, how are they going to explain that we are 616 and that Mysterio wasn't full of shit?
I just loved it that was a huge, like in the trailers, bombshell, there's a multiverse, and then it turns out that Mysterio was from California the whole time, not different Earth.
Well,
I thought
they
it
were
was
cashing
cool.
in on
Big
the
troll.
Into the Spider-Verse vibes.
I just
Awesome.
I thought they were really going to use. I'm glad though in a way because it shuts down all the theories of X-Men are coming from an alternate universe. The Fantastic Four are going to use the multiverse to jump back in, and I thought those were
the
weak,
Fantastic Four is the
too
easiest
easy
one to bring in. Like
they've been in space, like it's but there's my biggest. I'm happy that they did that.
They've been in fucking space.
Yeah, but I'm still surprised that no one's like, oh, the upset. Like no one has talked and been like said anything like, oh, I'm upset the multiverse. Nobody said shit about it.
Well, we were talking about how I was like. Somebody was talking about the Fantastic Four, and I know we're going to do the whole Bat in the Hat writes them into the MCU, but I was talking about how I was like, okay, so Reed Richards and all of them, they've been people through this whole thing. Maybe just recently they've been, off on their adventures. They don't become the Fantastic Four until they're ready to be brought in. They haven't been in space the whole time, and they're like, but don't you think we would have heard Reed Richards being the scientist he is. And I'm like, first of all, the only fucking scientist you can kind of name is Elon Musk, and only because he's in the media everywhere. Name another scientist, asshole.
That's an interesting point you just brought up, is they were there the whole time.
Right,
They're just not the Fantastic
They're just
Four
not
yet.
the Fantastic Four.
So someone brought that up the same way. Someone was like, "How can the X-Men have not been found out by now?" And I was talking to a few people. I'm like, "Don't you think that Professor
I was
X
there. I
would
was
not,
literally
you were
there.
okay? You were there, right?
We were part of that
we
argument.
would not protect them, would not keep them hidden, and they were like saying, and
That was
I agree.
me. I was saying these
You were
things.
saying all this, right? Okay. We were talking about how he could shield them
Right.
with his mind powers and all that BS from all of this, and like how he wouldn't just unleash the X-Men on the most mundane mission. Like he would like use them for what he thought was right. And it's so easy for them to just be like, "Oh, we're."
I don't
chilling in
know.
the
I think
backyard.
that's the hard one to be like. There was this secret society of mutants this whole time.
But
I'm not against you. Like I get where you're coming from, but I think the idea that there's been this secret society of mutants while all this world-ending shit has been happening, it just seems so bizarre to me.
I loved, and they would have to act on this quick, which they said the X-Men's not coming for a while. But I loved the idea that the snap.
See, and
mess
Tony
some
hates
stuff
that
up.
idea.
I just feel like if they could figure out the right way
That
to
the snap was what
figure
brought
it
out
out.
the mutant gene. In
Yeah,
people.
like he did something. Like it just messed up.
Were you not the
something.
one who was
I
upset
don't-
about that, or was it Topher?
I think it was Topher, but
Yeah,
I don't necessarily
it was
have a
Topher.
problem with that. But I do think that's just as weak writing as the multiverse.
Oh, I disagree. I think so, and
then-
I only say that because I think that maybe there were some mutants who have stayed quiet. Again, Wolverine has to be like he can't just become a thing. He's been a thing.
I really hope he's not.
I
there,
think
though.
that Charles Xavier and Magneto, they've been smart enough to hide their existence for long enough, and maybe there has been a certain number of them. But I think the snap. Unlocking the X gene in a certain number of people or in a larger community of people could really bring that mutant idea to the forefront in a better way.
Relying on the snap is worse.
It's not relying on the snap.
Than bringing,
it's storytelling.
Well, but like having the snap be this constant theme throughout the other movies is as bad as keeping Tony around too long.
Again,
I feel like
disagree
it's too,
because that's
it wasn't
been
as
the
like
biggest event in the 10 years or the 11 years of Marvel
you're
history.
not wrong, but like the snap being responsible for all
But
this,
you're not right.
It's like that.
Or
it
as
was
they
like,
called it in Far From Home, the blip.
you know how many people would be annoyed that like, oh, the X-Men are here because of the snap. Like Thanos creating the X-Men hypothetically.
People are going to be
is-
annoyed anyways.
No, I disagree.
How
There's
crazy
a way
would
to
it
do
be?
We can't
this
please
right.
anybody
There's
with this
a way
shit.
to do
you
this
know how
right.
many? I just said that I think this was the greatest live-action Spider-Man movie we've ever had. You know how many people I've seen on our page
Most
on Facebook
people are like
talk
not
about
happy.
like that fucking movie was shit and blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
I
I'm
didn't even like
you
the
don't know what
first
the fuck you're
half
talking
of the
about.
movie. I liked the second half.
Well,
of the
I said
movie.
that with Endgame though. I thought the
Yeah.
first 2 hours of Endgame were like
Pointless.
get to the point,
Slow, yeah.
and then it was like hammer time.
The second,
definitely
the second
think-
Thanos sat down and was like, "I'm gonna chill right here till y'all show up. Now kick your ass." I was like, "Oh my god, this is about to get serious."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm not even coming
No,
here."
when you see the ship coming through the quantum realm, you're like, oh shit's about to go down.
Yeah,
So, anywho's,
for sure. Sorry, I got really distracted.
I'm sorry. It was my eyes.
But
they are beautiful.
just locked deep
whip.
into your eyes. Well, Tony, you have a beautiful bride to get back to, and I know that you've been here with us for
and
several
we don't
hours.
because we're forever
Yeah.
alone.
Me and Matt are forever alone.
Post production.
But, dude, thank you so much for coming on and just nerding out with
Yeah,
us for the
thanks,
man.
last
It's
2
a
hours.
great
And
time.
Yeah, thank
again,
you for having me.
now he's actually been here for 3 hours now.
Good Lord.
And Matt, of course, 4 hours. It's 9.
Shit.
He's been here for 4 hours. Matt is used to this abuse where I spend most of the time getting ideas together and not actually
As I
recording.
have to be at work at 6
Yeah,
a.m.
right, because he has to be.
So-
And, but thank you guys so much, and thank you because he's again, like I said, guys, he's going to be coming back next week. We're going to do San Diego Comic-Con talk, and we're going to talk about the comic book
So
industry.
excited.
There should be a
and-
lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I
to
really
go on
can't.
about
I
there.
cannot wait. I feel like every day now we're going to get stuff that I'm going to freak out about.
Yeah, I feel like the second Thursday hits, we're gonna be texting each other.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
gotta
oh,
do
shit,
the
oh,
show
shit,
early.
Look at
Yeah.
this shit! Did you hear? They're fucking. What
Yeah.
the fuck? Oh shit! Fuck! Damn.
So
Yeah,
we'll
it's gonna be
so
awesome.
that'll come out. That'll come out Monday,
Cool.
and we'll do it as late Sunday as we can. Just tell your wife because we don't want there to be surprise announcements after. Like,
Yeah, that'll probably be better because then it won't be
Yeah.
she'll be happy. She isn't, whatever.
But
She'll be okay.
Oh, edit
She
that
loves-
out.
She doesn't
she
have
loves
to be
me
happy.
like she loves me. Like she'll be okay.
But yeah, so like I said, thank you guys so much, and please, as always, I know we like to beg and grovel on this show, but if you guys like the episode, give us a rating, man. We're on iTunes. I know you listen to us on iTunes because I can see the stats. You know,
Can't lie to me.
whatever podcast streaming app you're listening to us on. Give us a rating. Please go like the Facebook. We're almost at 500 likes now.
Yeah, quickly, which I messed up because I said I'll do a giveaway at 500, and it's creeping up there fast. I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah, so we're planning on doing a giveaway. We haven't figured it out yet. We'll probably
I have
talk about
ideas.
it.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week, and we're going to do a giveaway at 500 likes, and which everybody out there who's used to the YouTube world is going to be like, fucking 500? Who fucking cares?
Who do you guys think you are?
Yeah,
500
fucking
likes?
giveaway? Would you get a giveaway everything every fucking 500 likes, you broke bitches?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Anybody,
matter.
but can I enter the company?
But,
But
hey,
like,
I want
but
it.
if I like it, I'm in, right?
We'll probably. I think so. Somebody was sending us ideas. I think the best giveaway is a bottle cap from a Dasani water bottle that we both spit in, and
Tried to kick it off the top because we did the bottle cap challenge.
Yeah, try to, or maybe just a picture of Bette Midler we both licked intensely.
Or some ice cream that we licked, and we'll tell you the location in Publix where we put it back.
Yeah.
Or
oh, jeez.
Or bathwater. That's a big one.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah,
bathwater, the Belle, whatever her name is. The
Coconut
don't get me
flavored.
started on
Do
the
you hear how
people
many
licking
people
ice cream.
Not only
in
like
stores.
got like herpes from them, but then she was
God.
saying how that's wrong because she hasn't even shipped it out yet. Like,
Pe-
there's
pe-
so much back and
People
forth.
are drinking it apparently. It's
yeah, and
weird.
they're getting like herpes.
That's
and dying and stuff.
understandable.
The
I mean, what else would
yeah,
you do?
just
I mean,
to
why would
touch
you buy
just
bathwater for
because
anything else?
I'm so full of rage about the ice cream licking thing. Just so you guys know, if
Oh,
you
shit.
think that shit is funny, go fuck yourself.
Oof.
It is
Twice.
It's food tampering and it's a felony and you're an asshole. And here's the thing: what are you doing it for 5 fucking minutes of internet clout? Fake clout for people to yell at you for 10,000 likes and then you're never heard from again?
Yeah, I don't see any
Fuck yourself.
positive response.
I
to
hope
That's
it.
what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
can't figure out what you guys think is like great about this because you're idiots. That being said, I'm sure that nobody in our esteemed audience thinks that licking ice cream and putting it back in the freezer at Publix is funny.
I have
So
to go
thank
buy
you.
a few pints.
Thank you guys for being a smarter audience than the rest out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us whatever. I don't know, fucking.
Shout out to all of our new listeners because there has been a flux of new likes.
Yeah,
and
man, we've been
listeners.
getting
Thank
some
you.
new listeners. We get some good
Thank
stuff.
you for the OG listeners as
Yeah.
always.
People
And,
who we can, again, we get a lot of stats. We can tell some of y'all have been listening for at least the last several episodes
Yeah.
and consistently listen. And
thank you for your feedback that,
yeah.
that we get on our page.
for when we
Thank you
get
for
good
everything.
feedback. That's always good. And
It's not always good,
Yeah.
but thank you.
I like. So it was funny because we put up the post about this episode, and it was like, hey, we're gonna talk about Spider-Man a lot of Spider-Man stuff. And then we're going to talk about the comic book industry, which, of course, we didn't end up doing this episode. But that was like the whole thing of the post. And then the picture was all 3 live-action Spider-Man standing together. And the only... People apparently don't read our fucking post. Because the only thing it turned into was who apparently is the hotter Spider-Man in our comments section. And you know what? That's a good place to end this.
Bro,
Who's the,
shout out-
3, 2, 1, go.
Who's
Bro.
the hottest Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
Tom
Yeah.
Holland.
Really? Tom
Oh,
Holland?
Bro, shout out to the guy that his comment, all it said was, pizza time.
Yeah, pizza time.
And I was dead.
That shit killed. When he posted pizza time, I
I responded
instantly
with
started
the
busting.
GIF because
Yeah.
they had the GIF. I was
Pizza
like,
time.
oh.
Yeah, that shit is fantastic.
So,
But
all right.
thank you guys so much.
Cool.
We'll be back. And other than that, good night, Matt's mom.
Goodbye.